be in the building and every guest that you ever needed. Sports cards after hours keep the hobby heated. Updates, hobby talk like you never seen it. Sports cards live and none could ever beat it. Sports cards is a lifestyle. Sports cards and we live now. Welcome to another episode of Sports Cards Live with your host, Jeremy Lee.
All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 121 of Sports Cards Live. It is Saturday night, November the 27th, 2021. My name is Jeremy Lee. I want to thank last Saturday's guests, Adam Gray and Eric Myers, joined me to cover the PWCC Premier Auction. We had a blast as always. Tomorrow night on Collectible Live on the Collectible YouTube channel, my guest will be prominent collector Gary Balicki. His IG handle is at PristineMJ Sports. Check that out again tomorrow night, 7 o'clock Eastern on the Collectible YouTube channel. Next Saturday's guest on Sports Cards Live is none other than the great hobby ambassador, Brody the Kid. We had to reschedule from back in the summer, and that rescheduled date will be next Saturday. All right, a few shout outs, guys. The first shout out I want to do is it's really the final shout out for my guy Karn Rye from the Big Three Hockey on Instagram. He was the first brand to sponsor Sports Cards Live. I'll always be grateful for the belief and confidence he showed in the channel, in what I'm doing here. And so I just want to send him all my best as he retires that brand and goes on to bigger and better things. So to Karn, thank you so very much for your support and encouragement along the way. You know, I've greatly appreciate your friendship, and certainly wish you the best moving forward. All right, I want to ask everybody, check out Channel Supporter Whatnot for 1 minute auctions. Buy it now shows hosted around the clock. Some of the best breakers in the hobby. They also have other collectibles, including Pokemon, Funkos, MetaZoo, comics, video games, and more. I also want to shout out Collectible and the Mint Collective, which will be in Las Vegas, January 28th to 30th. I will be there. Come on out. Join me for this groundbreaking event. And let's throw up on the ticker right now. The website is themintcollective.com, again, in Las Vegas, January 28th to 30th. I want to thank and shout out all you podcast listeners. Appreciate you as always. Want to shout out and thank everybody who came by my booth at the Sport Card Expo 2 weekends ago. Thank you so much. What a great show that was. Can't wait till the spring show in May. And finally, thank you to all the subscribers and viewers. Closing in on 4,000 subscribers right now. If you're not yet subscribed, please take a moment and do so. Greatly appreciate that. All right, everybody. As always, tonight, your questions and your comments are in play. So let's get to tonight's guest. He started in the hobby in 1998 when his father bought him a pack of Donruss baseball. He went on to work in a card shop in the suburbs of Washington, D.C. in the late 1990s and slowed down his activity from 2000 to 2010. He dove back into the hobby in 2011 as a dealer and started his YouTube channel in early 2020. His favorite team is the Washington Football Club. His favorite all-time athlete is Cal Ripken Jr., originally from Maryland, currently hailing from the Netherlands, where it is currently 3:15 in the morning or so. Let's bring him out. Chris Sewall, welcome to Sports Cards Live. How are you this morning or tonight?
Great, man. Great intro on that. Yeah, love that. Appreciate it.
You bet, man. You bet. I left out the, Chris Sewall, baseball card collector, investor, dealer in that order. And I do think let's kick off with that right there, Chris, because I've been watching your videos for a year and a half now. And I've witnessed what I've referred to as the meteoric rise of your channel. But let's start off with talking about collector, investor, dealer in that order. Why is it in that order?
Yeah, so it's in that. Well, first of all, thank you for having me on. Hello, everybody who's watching. It's in that order because that's the order I became each thing. So I started off as a collector. That was 1988. My first pack of baseball cards. I was absolutely obsessed throughout the 1990s. Around like the late 90s or so, I became an investor as well, and then disappeared from the hobby for a little bit. And then around 2011 or so, I became a dealer. So and today I'm a combination of all three. A dealer more than the others, but yeah, that's why it's in that order. I became those things in that order.
So let me ask you this then. Since you've named the channel and described yourself as those things in that order, you've become somewhat of a YouTube sensation, which is kind of funny to call you that. I know it's like it
Yeah,
must feel weird even hearing me say that,
it's
but
very
it's
strange.
true.
Yeah, it's very strange to hear that. Yeah.
But it's the truth, Chris. I mean, you've got lots of subscribers. Your videos get tons of views. I watch 90% of them, I would say. You get so many comments all the time. Will you ever add from collector, investor, dealer, content creator, or advisor or
No,
influencer?
I've literally thought of that: baseball card collector, investor, dealer, YouTuber in that order. It would line up. It would make sense. And YouTube's part of the long term plan now. So I guess I'm a combination of all four.
You certainly are, and it's a big part of what you're doing in the hobby as well, in terms of your involvement and your activity. So it would make some sense. But I there's something to be said for keeping true to what worked and what got you started, right?
Well,
So
I actually, a lot of people thought it was a bad title at the beginning because it was long, confusing, easy to people mixed up the words a lot. So it's like I probably shouldn't make it longer.
fair enough. I think there is sort of a suggested standard amount of characters you should
Yeah.
have in your video titles, in your YouTube channel name. So you're probably at the max for that.
Probably
But
at the max. Yeah.
at this point, I don't know if anything will slow you down. You do such a great job. Your videos are always interesting, well thought out,
Yeah,
and they're informative and educational. I always think about content whether I'm creating it or I'm consuming it, and I think I want to sort of the three cornerstones are educate, entertain, and inspire. I really think you do all three. You certainly educate. You are entertaining, even in your sort of monotone delivery. You're entertaining. I love what you've done recently towards the end of your videos, where you'll say things like "eat your vegetables" or little things like that. Speak for a moment to kind of throwing out those little one-liners that kind of throw your audience off.
Yeah, so I've mentioned a couple times on my channel when I'm on camera on my channel, I'm very serious and monotone for the most part, and that's not who I am at all in person. I'm not sure why. That's just how I feel comfortable on cameras, being very serious but that's not who I am. I goof around a lot. I'm very easy to. It's very easy to make me laugh. Like I'm giggling all the time. So just throwing out a couple jokes here and there to try to, let my personality come out a little bit more. So I guess would be
Yeah. Well, I will just say, I mean, I don't know that I'm representative of your whole audience, but I certainly do. I'll watch. You don't expect it. And at the end of the video, I will laugh out loud, and it's like I'm almost like winking at you or giving you like the thumbs up, like good one, dude. That was great. I do enjoy that. So, all right, I want to get into a little bit about how you and I met, which we did which was at the National back in August. It was great to meet you there, and really a bit about your card show experience, your experience going to the National and going to card shows in general. Was that your first National, or have you been to many?
Oh no, I've been to the National every year for probably since 2011 or so. Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
Card shows are my probably my single favorite part of the hobby.
As they are mine too. I always say that when the expo in Toronto ends, I start counting down until the next time. Same thing goes for the National, especially after this past year, which was such an awesome show for, especially for. It was awesome for a lot of people, but I will say my own experience, and I'm gonna guess yours too, was really extra special because we have these YouTube channels, we create content, and we've become part of this group of content creators. It was nice to meet other content creators, including yourself, as well as people that watch us on our channels. Did you experience that at the show for the first time in 2021? It must have been the first time because there was no National in 2020, but what was it like for you walking around the show? Did people approach you, say hello, want to meet you, that sort of thing?
Yeah, so I loved that. So I've been to I was at a couple shows before that, like the Chantilly and the Philadelphia show, but there weren't other content creators there, I don't think. But yeah, a few people came up and said hi, and I love the channel. At the National, it was like every 10 minutes somebody came up, and it never got old. That's something I thought I would not like, because I'm a very private person in general. So I would have guessed ahead of time that I wouldn't have liked being approached by, hey, I love your channel. But I told it's awesome. I love I love it. And it was
Yeah,
really cool to meet. It was really cool to meet content creators. That was yeah. I mean, I probably met 10 or at least 10 or so. And yeah, your floating head billboard was cool to see.
Well, it's interesting because I always kind of look at being at shows and meeting fellow hobbyists. We have cardboard in common, so we're automatically going to have a certain level of rapport. Once you get to know each other, you see if it lasts. But
Yeah.
you have that as cardboard collectors. But if you throw in content creating on top of it, like when I met you, I just felt a kinship, if you will, to
Right.
you, and I could look at you directly
You're one of the few. I'm one of the few.
at eye level, right? I mean, we're both about 6.5 feet tall. It's rare that I can look at somebody eye to eye at that same level. So we also shared that, which was funny, I thought. So you worked at a card shop in the late 90s. Was that really kind of what gave you your first taste of buying and selling sports cards, and maybe what led you to want to become a dealer when you got back in 2011?
Yeah, that's I hadn't thought of it. That's probably about right. So I was started collecting 88. I was obsessed with cards throughout the 90s, and then I started working at a card store from 96 to 99 in Maryland, and I absolutely loved that. But yeah, that really changed my thinking from my mentality on the hobby. It's not just a hobby; you can also make a living out of it, and a lot of things changed with those years. Most notably, like, stop opening packs. I mean, the number of people that would just come into the store and just open packs and sell them all back to the store for 10% the price, and then get one more pack and then get nothing. And that was like almost hard to watch at times. So, but working at the store sort of showed me all these things. And yeah,
I can definitely identify with that. I kind of stopped busting a ton of wax several years ago because of that same sort of a feeling. But I'm grateful for the people that do bust the wax, because it releases these cards into the wild and allows us.
No, and there's a lot of fun in it too. So you're getting a lot of value from opening packs as well.
Definitely. There's one of my LCS guys. He refers to it as the breaker tax. The tax.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
But it's also the experience that you're
it's
the
experience. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
You pay more when you go to a restaurant, but there's an experience to it.
Exactly. For sure. So I mentioned earlier, you are out in the Netherlands right now, where it is about 3:15 a.m. for you.
Yeah, 4:15, but yeah.
4:15. So I thank you for making yourself available at this middle of the night for you. But
yeah,
why don't you let everybody know? I mean, I don't know that I've heard you discuss it on on your channel, but what took you out to the Netherlands in the first place?
So my wife got a really impressive job offer here. We both always loved Europe, and we basically were like, well, why don't we go for a couple of years and see how it goes? Yeah, but it was basically just like a 2-year plan. COVID has extended that for a couple of reasons, and also we really love it here. So at the moment we've sort of postponed the coming back to the States indefinitely, but we will eventually at some point, probably not too far down the road, but for now we're here, and yeah, we love it here.
I asked you the other day, I said, what's all that stuff hanging on the wall behind you? Is that kind of you planning out your episodes for your YouTube channel? And you said, no, that's my
yeah, I wish I could say I'm some mastermind, world designer, but no, it's just my 6-year-old's artwork.
It's your kids' artwork. Well, it's great that you have it all up. Is definitely. So I wanted to ask you this, and the answer might seem obvious, but I'll let you speak to it anyway. How do you stay connected to baseball cards and the hobby in general from the Netherlands, from Europe?
Very easy answer, and that's the YouTube channel. So when I moved here, it was at the beginning of 2019. I didn't really know what the plan was. I was basically in the mindset of, okay, I have 2 years to just sort of try something else, and then we'll go back and I can pick cards back up when we go back. After a year, I tried basically I was day trading a lot with the stock market, with some level of minimal success, we'll say. But after a year, I just missed cards. So I mean, I was still, buying on eBay a little bit here and there, but I just missed cards so much that I was like, I have to get back into cards. What am I going to do for another year? And at the time, I was thinking, I'm only one more year, and then we'll move back. What can I do to get back into the cards? I'll start a YouTube channel. And it was literally like this is just a 1-year filler thing to stay connected to the hobby. And then it's just grown so much that I could never abandon. Even if we go back, I'm not abandoning the YouTube channel. That'll now always be a part of it. Yeah, moving forward. So
yeah, well,
so the YouTube channel is how I stay connected. I mean, I fly to the States quite regularly to go to the shows. Every couple of months, I go to the States for a couple of weeks. But the YouTube channel is really the main thing.
You can't stop the YouTube channel, Chris.
No, I mean, I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. 40,000 plus people do as well. So you disappoint a lot of people if you ever did that. Yeah. I want to go to some comments. Let's welcome some people to the show. I'm sure we have a bunch of new people who discovered my channel through you. I do appreciate you putting that little video on your channel, letting people know that you were going to do this. So thank you for bringing people and putting more eyes and new eyes onto Sports Cards Live. I greatly appreciate that, Chris.
Yeah, of course.
So let's say hello. We got Studio Sports as boys are back. Get your drinks and let's go. Welcome back, Studio Sports. We got Troy's Collectibles with the new names as 2 of his favorite YouTubers tonight. Great to have you as always, Troy. Good evening to Chris C. Timeless Cardboard. Tyler says, I've been waiting for this since I discovered both channels. See,
cool.
That's really cool. That's really nice to hear, Tyler. Thank you, and great to have you as always. Birds on the Bat says, since you two are combined 13 feet tall, who would win a one-on-one basketball match?
I played some basketball in high school, or not at the high school level, but pick up. I don't know how good you were.
No, I wasn't very good. I've got the height, but
I could take you then. I'll claim it.
I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you. He would win, Birds on the Bat. He would win. One of one memorabilia, my 2 favorite people on YouTube. Thank you.
I recognize that name.
Yeah, that's awesome. Great account. Global, good day there, you beautiful human. We got Corey Carr. Hello, Corey. Great to have you. Jeremy Pringle, Albert Jones. Hello, Chris C. Jeffrey Hart. Back as always, Eric S. This is an episode I'm looking forward to. Great to have you. Tiger Jordan says, so happy to be here live with 2 of the best in the biz. Thank you so much, Tiger.
Yeah.
Richard Gotron, first time catching live. My 2 favorite YouTubers. Any used Toyota Camrys for sale tonight?
Yeah, I've never actually owned a Toyota Camry, which I don't know if you know that reference. I reference on the channel quite often.
Yeah. Eric S. says, I really enjoy Chris's videos. Thank you for that, Eric S. PSA Slab Guy, looking forward to this one. Met Chris at the National. Super nice guy, as did I. And yes, definitely a super nice guy. Tiger Jordan says, so close to 4,000 subscribers, should easily surpass. Thank you, Tiger. That would be a great milestone for this channel. Rocco says, Jeremy, Chris, Sports Cards Live in that order. This will be a super blaze. This will be from the Blazer division, everybody.
Nice.
From the Blazer division. Thank you, Rocco. Great to have you. We got Eric Sanderson to Orr. Eric, great to see you. Great meeting you for the first time in person at the expo. Johnny Atenko, dude, I'm so excited for this episode. Let's go. Beat hobby, catchphrase, collector, investor, dealer in that order. No doubt. We got Ron Fig. Great to have you, Ron. B. Roy. Timeless Cardboard says, yo, this is going to be epic. I hope so. Valentini Kitchens, great to see you. Great meeting you, your bro, your son at the show. Thanks for everything, Valentini Kitchens. We got Ramsey El Mektoub says, my boy, must be talking about you. This is a new name for me. Do you recognize this name?
I recognize I recognize the King Kong the thumbnail.
Awesome. Yeah, the Dutch Let's Go studio. Steve Donnelly, great to meet you at the expo. Gave my teen a great deal of line of young guns, and it's true. You really don't expect him to be as tall as he is in person. I love it. One for the task is stoked. Corey Carr is stoked. Thanks, everybody. I do, if you're new, I do like to, welcome everybody to the channel, involve all the viewers, the comments. As I mentioned at the outset, your comments, your questions are in play. So feel free to post up any questions you have for Chris or for myself, of course. Facebook user, good evening, Adam Holgate. Looking forward to the show. Baseball card curmudgeon, what's up with you? Michael Ham in the house. Great to have you, Michael Ham. I like this. Valentini says, a pleasure meeting your followers here also at Jack Astor's. What a great night and dinner. Thank you. to the Kitchens, the Valentinis, Brandon Spicer, welcome to the show. This is what's going on. Gem Mint Cards, hello. I can go on and on. The comments are coming fast and furious, so we're gonna sort of slow down right there for now. I'll scan for any questions that you all have. Bless and Breaks here. We'll do this one. My favorite YouTuber, Chris. He's like that history teacher I always wished I had.
I get that now and then. You would be. I wish you were my history teacher.
Yeah. Too funny, right? Too funny. Here's a question for you, Chris, from Tiger George. How much of your collection is maintained between where you're at in the Netherlands, in the United States, ComC, etc.?
My personal collection. My personal collection is all with me. I guess there's a little bit in storage in the US, but my inventory is spread all over the place. There's a bunch of ComC. I think I have a dozen accounts around the hobby now where cards have been shipped out to, and I have a bunch with me here, and a little bit in storage in the States.
There you go, Tiger Jordan. Scott Fiska says Chris's channel and his knowledge of the hobby is great. Very true. I've noticed that too. But Chris, give some insight to your audience, my audience here, about how much time do you actually put into your videos? What level of research goes into what you're doing?
Quite a bit. So it used to be a lot more. I've gotten faster at it now. But when I like a high rollers video will take about 4 hours start to finish. But it used to take like two days. But I've just gotten faster at it. And a video where it's like with like a lot of data and research is probably like a one full day, like an 8-hour day.
So these things take time, right? It's a bit different.
This is I do a lot of research. I script out a lot of what I'm going to say. Not exactly, but partially. I do a lot of editing. So it's time consuming, but it's fun. I mean, I barely even view it as work, so that doesn't even feel like that.
It's a lot different from what I do. I only do lives, and so there's prep up front in terms of scheduling and planning and doing show notes and all that. Right. But once the recording is done, the work is over. There's no going back and doing anything to it. It's on to the next one. Whereas with a typical YouTube video, you shoot it and then you edit it. You add all the different features to it, and there's a lot of time there as well. Never mind the upfront research that a video like yours takes, because you're providing so much information and knowledge.
Yeah. It's a full, close to a full-time job, if we'll say.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, let's take a second then and talk a bit about, and just to let the audience know, anyone who's not completely familiar with sort of the different types of videos that you produce, the cadence of your videos, what different types of videos do you have, and when do they come out?
Okay, yeah, so I have two recurring ones. Every Wednesday is called the High Rollers. That's it changes now and then, but at the moment it's just a top 10, the top 10 highest sports card sales of the week. I usually only look at eBay, although I've been adding some other platforms recently, like MySlabs and PWCC. But yeah, it's usually just the top 10 eBay sales of the week. And then Thursday is Regular Rollers, which was basically a spinoff of High Rollers, where at some point my channel was just so many of my videos were like these $50,000, $100,000 sales. I was reviewing golden auctions and all the high sales, and I was like, it's not like the average person is out there, buying these LeBron refractor rookies all day long. So I wanted to just do some videos about more normal sales, $25 eBay sales, $100 eBay sales, $3 eBay sales. So Regular Rollers started that, and that's every Thursday. So those are my two recurring videos. And then I also post a video every Monday and Saturday. And so it's 4 a week, but occasionally a fifth if I feel inspired. And the Monday and the Saturday are just whatever I'm sort of inspired to do that week. And they vary in a lot of different things. There's top 20 lists, or just hobby stories, or it's something I noticed that's worth a breakdown on data, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I've noticed over the last year and a half or so, you have added new types of videos. You've gone as far as even, you've gone into great detail about some of the big deals that you've done over the years, where which it's pretty impressive that you actually have the data to go along with, and the photos. You had this foresight. You must be thanking yourself now when you would
Well.
go to buy. So what I'm talking about, if you haven't seen these videos on Chris's channel, is that he'll kind of recap a collection that he bought, 10 years ago, and he'll go through and explain what he bought, how much he paid, how the negotiation went. He'll have pictures from the collection that he, like the person's garage, piles of boxes of cards, pictures of them, so to give you an idea of what the scope was that he was dealing with. And then he'll tell you how he went on to dispose that collection, what cards he kept for his personal collection. And he has the financials to add really some amazing context to just how successful the purchase was. So one of the questions I had for you on that, Chris, was, how many of those deals did you document to that level of detail? And you've already shared several of them on your channel. Are we going to run out of these things?
Yeah. So when I was, in the peak of my dealing, the biggest aspect of my what I did was go around and buy collections. So I would go to people's homes and buy a large collection like twice a week, and I was doing this for years. So there are hundreds of these, and every once in a while there'd just be some crazy story, and my wife's always like, oh, you should have, you got to write these down. And so I would sort of write down some of the stories, but the financials I'm very lucky on, because a lot of those were done with a partner, also named Jeremy, who I've mentioned a bunch in my channel. And normally I wouldn't just keep the financials on a random deal, but on a lot of them I did for his sake, because we were splitting the deal. He needed, I wanted him to be able to see exactly what we're selling, how much we're selling it for. So I kept all the financials and all the details. And so I luckily just still have it all. So a lot of the deals I talk about are deals I did with him, and that's specifically because I have the financials on them. But if you go back to when I really started dealing, I was keeping track of deals back then as well, just to sort of make sure I was doing all right. But at some point I stopped because I don't need to keep financials on a deal that I do myself today, for example. I just don't need to. But I will eventually run out of stories. So those are they're not quite my most popular videos, but I think they are. I think they sort of are. They don't get the most views, but I think they're people's favorites. And I've done maybe 10 or so, and I probably have about 5 left that are good stories where I have financials with them. But I don't want to just use those 5 up. So I'm sort of spacing them out, put out one a month or something.
Yeah, you got to savor them. You got to let the audience savor them too. We'll be disappointed when they run out, but you're still active. You're still active. You're still buying collections. So theoretically, you might be able to generate some new content for those types of videos as time goes on.
Oh, definitely. Well, I already have a couple from this year now, because when I go to the States, I usually go to a show and buy a bunch of collections locally. So wherever I am. So yeah.
Right on. We'll get back to that. Timeless Cardboard says, Jeremy, thanks for getting the best guest in the hobby. You are welcome. Cardboard. Yeah, you're welcome, Timeless Cardboard, for sure. Bob Lewis says, guest from the Blazer division tonight. I love it. Colin Murray, hello to you. Jim Goodfellow says, yo, Chris is the man.
Jim Goodfellow definitely recognize that name.
There you go. Great to have you, Jim Goodfellas. Chris C says it's the card heavyweights. 2 great shows at the same time. Terry Fortune, good evening. Jim asks people to hit that like button. Appreciate that very much.
Yeah.
Brian Rupp wants to know if you're going to the Philly show this coming weekend, Chris, seeing as you're sitting in. You are.
Yep, I'm flying out. I won't be there Friday. I'm flying out Friday, and we'll be there Saturday. The whole show Saturday and Sunday.
There you go, making the trip across the pond. Right.
I love it. Yeah.
Gem Mint Cards found Jay Lee from Sewell's channel. No new subber here. Welcome and thank you so much for subbing. Nice. Greatly appreciate that. Model Car Guy, thanks for the deals at Expo. Must be Marco. You are welcome for the Gretzkys. Sold a couple of Gretzky rookies at the Expo last weekend.
He did? He did, or you did?
I sold to him.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Nick M, finally watching it live instead of the podcast, and what a good one to be here for. Chris, what's the coolest card you've bought in the Netherlands?
Oh, I don't think I've bought a card. There's no card market here. Oh, there was a small show I went to, but there was like 8. It was in Belgium. There was like 8 tables, and it was all modern basketball. I don't think I bought anything of note. Yeah.
Is there any hobby activity in the Netherlands? Are there any shops? Are there any other collectors you've happened to run into along the way?
Essentially zero. Like I said, there's like one I've been to one. Well, I guess I've been to two shows here, but they were both eight tables, and it was really just like some friends from. It was like all the card collectors in Belgium met at this one show, and there was 8 of them.
And were they all expats or were they local?
No, they were all local, but
Yeah.
it was all basketball and soccer. Yeah, it was all modern basketball and soccer.
Hoff card collector wants to know what's your favorite card in your collection?
Oh man,
you know this question was coming. I told you I was going to ask you.
Oh yeah. It would probably. I mean, it would be something Cal Ripken. All my favorite cards are basically all my favorite Cal Ripkens. Maybe I've told the story of my 1988 Donruss Mark McGuire card. That's actually the card I got in the first pack I ever opened. I still have it. Awesome. The exact card I got in the pack. Yeah, that's in 1988. So cool. It's probably in like VG condition. If you put it in an auction on eBay with free shipping, it would probably go for like 10 cents.
Yeah, exactly. But hey, that's okay. Some of the most important cards in our collections are the ones that we have the most sentimental value with that nobody else would have sentimental value for. So this next comment is quite the praise. This is heavy praise here. The hobby equivalent of Mantle chatting with Maze.
Oh, which one? Who's who?
I don't know. I want to give you the better of the two, but I don't know which is the better of the two. They're both absolute legends. So
I'll take Maze.
Okay. You get first pick. You can have Maze for sure. Thank you, Luigi, on my pickup of that card. Troy says, Chris inspired me. I now collect a special collection run over by a dump truck division.
Nice.
And what we're talking about with these divisions, again, if you don't watch Chris's channel, and you should be if you're not, just your delivery, Chris, with a certain, I always come back to the Blazer division when a card is just so nice. You do say what other divisions do you have?
Okay, there's the Blazer division. There's the I'm Jealous division, which is basically the same thing. It's like a high-grade vintage card. Run over by a truck division. Those are for ultra poor vintage usually. Run over by a bulldozer division is if it's like, missing corners and stuff. Run over by a bicycle division is, it's poor, but not that poor.
Okay.
I think that's all I got that are sort of recurring.
Sounds good. I like the Blazer division. Those are the cards I like to look at the most. But of course, they're obviously the nicest.
Yeah.
Timeless Cardboard says, what's the one card you probably will never own, but is at the top of your list?
That's an easy one. 1980 Cal Ripken minor league card. It's an orange border. They're impossible. There's only been like 30 of them graded ever by PSA. I've never even seen one. I might have probably seen one like at a show or something, but I've never known somebody who owned one. That card. I think there's 30. I think there's something like 40 total graded by all the companies.
Well, okay, and that'll address Michael Ham's question as well. Frank Schneider,
and the highest grade is a PSA 8 that exists, so that would be my holy grail.
There you go. Frank says, great guess, and only one I sold the card to many years ago, which is pretty cool.
Oh, he sold a card to?
Sounds like he sold a card to you.
Oh, cool.
Karen wants to know, how specific is your inventory? Do you log each individual card, commons, stars? How do you do that?
I don't log anything. The only thing I do is when I do a deal with a partner, then I log everything for their sake. That's basically the only time I keep track of stuff.
Okay, and let's go to this one from Scott. He says, Chris's regular roller segment is so interesting. What a great concept. And I want to use that comment as a bit of a segue into, like you said before, high rollers, we're talking about cards that are 50 grand and up. A very small percentage of your audience can really identify with what it's like to acquire a card like that. A very small percentage of the hobby can identify with what it's like to acquire a card like that. So my question is, and you get lots of comments on your videos. I want to ask you how you keep up with that. But before we do that, from the tone of the comments, do you find that your audience resonates more with your regular rollers videos than your high rollers videos? How do you see and how do you perceive the audience between the two different videos?
Yeah, so the high rollers gets more views than regular rollers consistently, but yeah, I would say I would say the regular rollers is more, closer to people. The high rollers, a lot of the high rollers comments are, what are people? Who's got this sort of money? Why would you spend that money on this? What's going on here? This is bonkers. Whereas the regular rollers is a lot more like personal hobby stories. You can say, oh, I bought a card like that. Oh, cool. I want to. So I like that aspect of it a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I want to go to this one quick from Ron Fig. Do you have other hobbies?
Well, I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I watch all the Star Wars stuff whenever I can. I play an adult soccer league. Other than that, I mean, I have a lot of interests, but probably I wouldn't call anything else really a hobby besides that.
And you know what? And I mean, the way I think of it, even for myself, is I just don't have time for any other hobbies at
No,
this
yeah,
point
yeah.
between family, career, and hobby.
Right,
One
right.
is enough.
Yeah.
Tiger Jordan says, a question for both of us. Have there been any unexpected benefits from your channel? Similarly, any unexpected challenges? We'll put that to you first.
Lots of unexpected benefits. One of the big ones is that people contact me and want to sell me their collections. I didn't anticipate that being like a part of the channel at all, but that just started happening regularly. And so every time I go to the States now, probably at least 20 people are sending me a package for me to buy from them, and that's awesome. Because another way for me to keep my business going that way and buy collections, which, like I said, there's not any collections to buy here, so that's really cool.
Any challenges?
Any unexpected challenges? No, I mean, the channel's been like all positive, basically. How about you? How's the channel been for you in those aspects?
Yeah, I mean, the benefits it's almost immeasurable, the benefits, just in terms of it's just the enjoyment I get from meeting. Like, this is episode 121 of this particular show that I do. I also do a show called After Hours, which oftentimes comes on after this one.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I do Collectible Live, where Collectible, the fractional ownership company, has contracted me to host a show on their behalf. So right there, I mean, I'm, generating some income from doing that. That's a benefit just financially. But back to my original benefit is the fact that I get to meet people. We're going to, my episodes are about 2 hours long on average. So they're long. So I spend 2 hours with about 150 different people so far. I've had Dr. Beckett on the show 5 times. I've had Brian Gray from Leaf on the show half a dozen times. The list goes on and on, the names of the hobby I've had. But it's not only the show itself. It's a good hour before the show, learning about them, being able to build some rapport, developing the questions I want to ask, the topic. So I get to spend like at least 3 hours with all these people, talk about a benefit of having the channel, and just getting to know the who's who of the hobby. So for me, that's been, I don't think I can really measure what that is, but it's definitely been an unexpected benefit for me and just my overall hobby enjoyment and satisfaction.
Yeah, imagine 10 years ago someone being like, I'm going to pay you to hang out with James Beckett for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah, it was funny because he was the first time he was on was episode number 30 for my show. Yeah. And it was like I was starstruck. I would have been very nervous. I was blown away that the guy whose name is on the magazine that I'd been buying since the mid to late 80s was now sitting with me in my, online studio, and I was going to get to talk to him. And he's a great guest too, because he's very, not only does he have so much information, but he actually is interested and curious as to what you're doing, and he asks questions himself as well. So just a great guy to have on the show. But those would be benefits. As for challenges, keeping up the pace, I would say can become challenging. Just keeping up with doing this every Saturday now. It's really coming up on 2 years, not quite. I started in April, but it's going to be around here before we know it. And I've only missed maybe 2 Saturdays in all that time. So that would maybe be one of the challenges. But thank you, Tiger Jordan, for the question. Any other comments on that from you, Chris?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I was trying to think of challenges too. I mean, when I travel to the States, it's tough too, because I can't really put out content when I'm traveling. So I guess that would be a challenge. Just like you see a major dip in your channel views as I go away for 2 weeks, but it's I wouldn't call any of it a problem.
Yeah. No, agree with that for sure.
Yeah.
Jeff Hart says, Chris, what is your favorite card that you've kept from one of your finds and purchases?
Yeah, my favorite. I mean, my collection's pretty large, so I don't know that I've kept from one of my purchases. I did a video on. I guess that wasn't from a purchase. Well, I did a video. My most valuable card I've ever owned is a black refractor LeBron James PSA 9. But I got that for $800 back in the day. So I'll call that one, because it'll ultimately be my most profitable, single card.
Very good. Very nice. It's funny. I kind of think of you more as a baseball guy for what it may, because it's in the name of your channel. And then, your favorite card that you have is a basketball card.
Yeah. That's actually a mistake. Well, not a mistake, but probably sports card collector, investor, dealer would have been a smarter title. I grew up with baseball. I don't know if you collected in the 80s and 90s, but you were made into hockey, or were you into baseball as well?
I did it all. I was buying packs of 1980 basketball cards. The panel.
Wow. You were the one.
Panel cards. Yeah. I remember buying I have a vivid memory of opening those up in the back seat of my mother's station wagon in probably 1981, 82.
Okay.
And vivid memory.
I mean, when I remember, and it might have been the area I was in, but I remember, in the late 80s, early 90s, the hobby was 90% baseball. And then the other sports were almost like niche sports. Football was sort of second, but so I grew up collecting them all too, but baseball was just so heavily dominant at the way I remember it. So that's sort of why I almost think of, when I say baseball cards, I interpret that as like all sports cards. But I probably a lot of people today don't think of it that way.
Well, I do too. And I'm in Canada, right? So when people ask me, why were you in Toronto last week? Oh, I was at the sports card show. And then they, but I didn't say sports car. I said sports cards. And I'll say, like baseball cards or like hockey cards.
Yeah. Right.
That's what I'll say, because people they just know baseball cards or hockey cards up here. It kind of defines the hobby as a whole. Yeah.
Right.
Here's a question from Sean. It says, Chris, how much do you believe EU import duties are a delimiting factor among European collectors?
I think I don't really know. Probably a little bit, but I don't have much insight on that.
Fair enough.
No.
Chris C. And Chris, I noticed this at the beginning, but we'll get to it right now. Thoughts on why iconic GOAT cards keep falling? For instance, 96 Chrome Kobe, 2019 Prism Zion. Kobe isn't the Zion, yet it keeps plummeting. It's not just about pop counts, it seems. What are your thoughts on the 96 Chrome Kobe Bryant card seemingly coming down in value?
So I would step back and look at the bigger picture of that and say, in 2020 and particularly early 2021, card prices shot up to an all. I mean, we've never seen that sort of rise in card prices in the 30 years in such a short span. And they shot up, and it was amazing to see, but they shot up too high. It's not. I mean, it's just not. They were too much. It's too much, man. I mean, $1 million for the Jordan. So then a natural correction has happened, and I think when you think of. And the correction is not just something that happens in like a week or a month. Maybe we're still in it, and maybe we're still at the tail end of it, or maybe we're in the middle of it. But I just see that we went so high, and we're just now in a natural correction that will end at some point. Maybe it's at the end now, but that's what I would say. If you notice cards like the Kobe falling, that's what I would say is going on in my guess.
And if you zoom out a little bit and you zoom out to 2019, that card is still up about 6 to 10 times what it was in 2019. So, I own that card, and to me, and I bought my copy, I don't know, in 17 or 18. So to me, it's still been a humongous win. It really depends on when you entered the market on that card, but really, it's come down to where it kind of it's more it's equilibrium, if you will. And I won't say it's because I don't know that we'll ever be at equilibrium, but we're certainly come down to a level that is much more sustainable. And like you said, when that card was selling for north of $40,000, it was, I mean, just too much for the card.
It's not, yeah, right. So it's healthy. I mean, the corrections like that are healthy.
And then you have to decide when the right time to buy in is. If that's a card you want, or you believe in Covey as a long-term hold, is now the time to buy, or are people going to continue to wait, thinking it'll continue to, as Chris said, plummet? But if you do that, you may never get a chance to buy it as low as you can today.
That's tough. Yeah, that's true.
It's tough to time the market. I've been saying throughout the whole pandemic that I've been buying cards consistently for really about over 40, well, let's say over 30 years, for even a bit more. So I don't really care where the market's at. I will always be buying cards because it's what I do. And if some go down in value, well, so be it. Hopefully we have enough that have gone up in value to at least balance things out.
Yeah, I would say the Kobe, I mean, that's an all-time iconic card of an all-time great. So will it be higher or lower a year from now? Who knows? But will it be higher or lower 10 years from now? It's going to be higher. Probably.
I think so too. I would agree with that for sure. Scott Fiska says, I absolutely love when you share the ideas you have when you bought a collection. So unique and educational. Yeah. Insights like that are really where I think you, as a specific content creator, Chris, add a ton of value to the audience, because you're not just showing them what you did, but you're not just showing what you did and what you bought, but you're explaining what was going through your mind at that time. And that is truly just a valuable perspective to share. Do you enjoy that? How, like, as much as we as your audience enjoy it, how do you enjoy providing that information?
Well, they're really fun to relive. A lot of those stories I've told, to other hobby collectors and dealers many times. So it's fun to relive. And when I make the video on it, I actually have to really relive it and like sit down and remember, go through the actual spreadsheet and say, oh yeah, I did, that card was in that deal. And that's really fun.
Okay. Sean Robb says, thank you, Chris, for being so respectful about hockey cards in your stories and high-low roller episodes.
Yeah.
Which, I think it's nice. Hockey does kind of seem to, get kind of looked down upon by some in the hobby. And it's not like it's not warranted as far as what's going on. Soccer has overtaken hockey as, it used to be hockey was the fourth, and now it's probably the fifth, maybe even the sixth, if UFC and F1 are going to overtake it in terms of popularity. But how do you, Chris, you observe the hobby, you observe the market. How do you see hockey kind of within the overall landscape? And I'm seeing it gain steam right now. Are you see it gaining any steam?
I think that hockey has, so that's interesting. Just to come back, it's interesting. You think soccer is overtaken hockey in like what sense? Just in like the number of collectors? You might be right. I'm not sure.
Number of cards you see in card show and in showcases at card shows.
No, you're right. Or true.
Also PSA subs. I mean, hockey's at the bottom of the list as far as what, you look at the gem rate data, which we'll talk about gem rate in a few minutes.
Yeah.
You look at the gem rate data, and hockey's at the bottom of the sport that has the most submissions to PSA on a weekly basis. So that's what I mean. And soccer is way above it as of late. Now, I think there's more hockey cards in the hobby than there are soccer cards, and that won't turn around for many, many years, if not decades, just because of
the history.
How long. Yeah. But as far as what's popular today.
Yeah. I would say that that's probably true. Hockey has like this incredible base customer base that maybe is as strong as any of the other sports. Like I know it's smaller, but you're not gonna put a dent in that. So hockey's not going down anytime soon.
Yeah.
So I think it has like a really strong base, and that gives it potential to grow for sure.
I think you're 100% right. And I've said this lately that, I believe that baseball and hockey have the most dedicated collector bases in the hobby.
Yeah.
That's where,
totally agree.
Yeah, I think basketball is at a higher risk of losing a lot of its collectors just because
Yes.
it's so many people that have come into the hobby in the last couple of years have come in to basketball because it's so hot and popular, and these worldwide sensation athletes. So I do think that hockey has a foundation that isn't going to go anywhere. I'd say we use the term floors and ceilings, but I think the foundation is very, very strong in hockey.
Definitely.
Probably second most to baseball.
Well, yeah, second most to vintage baseball almost is what I would say.
Yeah, for sure. Skeppy says, what recurring trends and themes from the 90s are you seeing today? Which ones do you think are helping the hobby the most?
So not quite sure what you're referring to, like the card design, or you mean in terms of compared to the junk wax era? You think that's what?
I think that's what he's getting at. I think, I've seen people recently say that, this is, we had the junk wax era in the 90s, as you just mentioned, and some people are feeling like we're in another junk wax era. People have dubbed it the junk slab era.
Yeah.
So recurring trends, I mean, maybe it's just a lot of supply, which seems like they can't pump it out fast enough. There's not enough printers in the country or in the world to produce these things for us. Brands are being delayed. So
it's bonkers. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, you got to wonder back in the 90s, if Pro Set and Score and Donruss and Upper Deck, were they printing their own cards, or were they using third-party vendors like they do today? And it seems like they were printing more back then than they are now. So I don't know what happened to all the printers, but I have a feeling that maybe that's kind of what Skeppy is getting at. Just
yeah. Well, there's definitely similarities. Overproduction, or not overproduction, just the number of cards being put out is so much higher than it's been in 25 years or whatever you want to say, 20 years, I would say. I don't know if the hobby will be able to sustain that long term. I mean, Fanatics has said they want to grow the hobby 10x. So if they do, then they will. But we have seen it before in the early 90s when they were just the card companies were just printing money. I mean, they were just they couldn't sell it fast enough. 88 Topps baseball wax boxes. They could print as many as they wanted, and they would sell them all.
I think Fanatics' first move, and Josh Luber, if you're watching, I think that one of the first things you need to deploy capital into are printing machines. And just if you're going to grow the hobby 10x, we need more printers to print the cards. So
yeah.
All right, let's go on to Adam's question here. He says it could be an entire show, but could you both comment on how you value a collection you would be buying?
You want to go first on that?
Sure, I'll be quick, and thank you for the opportunity. I would just say that when I look over it pretty quickly, I look at the cards and I kind of say, okay, we'll find out what the person wants for their collection. Say it's $10,000. I'll say, okay, this group of cards here are going to recover my $10,000. The rest is going to be the gravy, the profit, whatever you want to call it, and how much of that do I believe there is, and and if the person, and believe it or not, if the person is undervaluing, I have been known to say, listen, I can't give you that. I'm going to give you a bit more because it's just not enough. If you're going to sell me for 10, I'm going to sell for 60. I'm not going to have a good feeling about that. But if I'm going to buy it for 10 and sell it for 20, even 25, with all the work involved, depending on how many, if it's 3 cards, it's not going to go that way. But if it's 300 or even 3,000 cards, then yeah, there's a ton of work. You're going to want to double your money at least. So that's kind of how I go about it. And I always try to protect my downside too. If cards are volatile, the market is volatile. So I will kind of consider what I think is, if I have to liquidate, what's the least amount I'm going to get for this card? And that's kind of what I use sort of as a baseline when I'm buying a collection, and I'll apply that sort of mindset to the high value cards within that collection.
Yeah. What you said is really important. Like, I think a lot of time, well, first of all, this could be an entire show because that would take a long time to, and really it's sort of like a function of experience. Like when I was started off and I was buying collections, I was getting things wrong all the time. But over time, you just get a lot better and faster at being able to assess what it's worth, what you're going to sell it for, how long it's going to take, how much work it's going to take. And what you said is really important. Like a lot of people, I'll say, I bought a collection. They're like, oh, what'd you pay for it? And I'll say, X. So what'd you sell it for? Y. And they're like, oh, cool. And that's the only thing they think of to factor in. But how long is it going to take you to sort it? To how much work is it going to take? I mean, it doesn't feel like work, but time is money, and how long is it going to take you to sell it? Like, is it stuff that's going to fly out of your shelves and you're going to sell, you're going to flip it, or is it going to sit in your eBay store for a year and then maybe someone will find, you got to really factor those things in. Otherwise you could really trap yourself in terms of cash flow and whatever, all sorts of other issues, just getting tied up in a deal,
Yeah, you need to factor in your time. And like you said, time is money, and it's time away from your family. It's away from other things. There's the opportunity cost.
Away from other deals. Yeah.
Other deals. Yeah. Yeah. So you have to I sometimes even go as far as thinking to myself, well, how much do I want to get paid an hour?
Yeah.
And how many hours is it going to take me? And, so to buy, it might seem like a great deal that you can buy a collection for $10,000 to sell it for $15,000. But if there's over 1,000 cards there, and you also need to consider, if you're someone who sells at card shows, as I do, you have to transport those to the card show. So you might pay for extra baggage, which I do every time. You have to rent showcases. You might have to rent an extra booth at that card show just to be able to display your extra inventory. So there's a cost to that as well, which is all over and above the time that you actually spend. So there's many factors. It's not just money in, money out. There's other things you gotta really look at.
Right. And that, so when I do my collection buying videos, I make a point to include, okay, this took me 4 weeks of full-time work, and I recovered my money in 10 months or whatever it was. So that it's not just what'd you pay and what did you sell it for? Exactly. Your time is almost more important than that. I mean, it's almost a more important factor.
It really comes down to how much is your time worth to you?
Yeah,
what do you get out of bed for? Do you get out of bed in the morning for $15 an hour, or are you $100 an hour kind of person?
Right.
It just depends where you value your own time.
Yeah.
Bill the Hoff Collector says, one of the few high subscriber channels I'll watch. This guy knows the hobby. Very nice.
Thank you, Bill.
Very nice. Jeff Hart says, if it's not a trade secret, how do you source all the collections you buy, since you've been able to find sellers so regularly?
You mean, how do I find the collections to buy?
That's
at this point, they come to me. I don't. It's basically all word of mouth for me at this point.
It's word of mouth, and it's relationships, and it's
and relationships.
By word of mouth, you almost mean references. I can't tell you how many times I get a message, a DM on Facebook or Instagram saying, somebody told me to contact you. It just happened after the expo. Somebody told someone to contact me. They were misinformed that I was in the Toronto area. And I said, listen, I'm not going to be able to help you, but I got a guy for you. And I directed him to this other guy. That's what it is. It's relationships, and just knowing who's going to be fair with collectors or with people who have collections.
Yeah, I think, and it sounds like when you buy a collection and you treat the person right and you pay fair, they're more likely to refer you to someone else down the road. And so if you just buy a whole bunch of collections over time, this just sort of snowballs. And at some point, it's like this natural web is being created of people, contact you to sell collections.
Yeah. Transparent Grading Team, good to see you as well.
You too.
Chris says, I don't think we've hit the bottom yet. When do you both see a stabilization in prices? I'm going to go off on a limb and say never. I don't think we're ever going to see stabilization, especially over the next 5 or so years, while this transition to Fanatics is going to happen among the hobby growing. But as far as bottom, I mean, I don't ever like to try to time the market. I might try to, look, seasonality within an overall sport, based on when the playoffs are starting or the season itself is starting. But as for timing the overall market, I'm just not smart enough to do that. What do you think, Chris? Any comments?
What you just said is exactly how I feel. Like timing the market is not a game I play. Are we at the bottom? I have no idea. In the short term, just no idea. Like you said, I will time the market around like sports seasons. Like, oh, it's the off season in baseball, so card prices are down. I'll buy some baseball right now. But beyond that, not I don't really do much. I mean, I have no idea where the market's going. I would actually guess that it's going to be somewhat stable for a little while, but maybe the Fanatics chaos will cause some chaos. Yeah, that's true. I hadn't really thought of that.
It could. I mean, it's speculation, even from what
Yeah.
I'm saying. Chris, I remember it just popped into my head. The suburb of Maryland that I worked at.
Oh yeah,
it was Gaithersburg, Maryland.
Oh yeah, that's right next door.
Okay.
Or not right next door. It's a 20-minute drive from where I was.
That's where I was living and working in probably
in
99
the
or
late
2000.
90s?
Pardon?
Okay. In the late 90s or
late? I was on secondment there. It was it was between 98 and 2001 at some point when I would have been there.
Were you collecting cards at the time? Because
I was, but I wasn't while I was there. I was literally working, 12-hour days. I was, doing my CPA articling, and that's what there was no downtime. But
okay.
Yeah.
So, because the card store I worked at was 15 minutes from Gaithersburg. So if you were going to card stores at all, chances are we ran into each other. But
could you imagine? That would have been hilarious. Yeah.
Yeah.
I recognize this guy from.
Yeah. That's the other tall guy.
Yeah, exactly. There's been a couple of questions about. Here we go. Hoff Card Collector. How do you deal with government taxes? I think we're talking income tax here when selling collections. So it's a really good question. One that's coming up more and more, especially as I believe PayPal or eBay has kind of lowered their threshold as far as how much money you're pulling out to the point where they have to issue a 1099 or report to the IRS. I'm in Canada, so it's going to be a little bit different here. We don't have the IRS; we have the CRA. But we'll start with you, Chris. I mean, and I also am aware that as a U.S. citizen, you still need to report your income to the government in the U.S., even though you don't live there. Whereas in Canada, you only report where you're resident. So if you're not a resident of Canada, you don't need to report to Canada. So you may not be you may, if you were Canadian, you wouldn't be a resident anymore. But as far as the U.S. goes, and if you want to keep this high level, please feel free. But how do you deal with income tax when selling sports cards?
I mean, I just report everything and pay my taxes. I'm not like I have an accountant who handles all my taxes, and I keep records of my monthly sales and my monthly purchases. And there's not really more to it than that. They do they just put it all into the program and tell me what I owe.
Yeah, pretty much. And pretty much, I am a CPA, so it's in my nature to keep very detailed records, which I do. And yeah, I mean, the nice thing about being a hobbyist who generates some profit on an annual basis from the hobby is that, every time you travel to a card show, that's a deductible expense. Your hotel, your car rental, your showcase rental,
my flights.
All that. It's all deductible. So and it's not just in the sports card world. Any business you have, any expense that you can deduct against your income to come up to your taxable income is an expense that you need to take. So it's not just revenue minus expenses. That is minus cost of goods. That is simply gross margin. You've got all your G&A, your general and administrative expenses under there, whether it's travel, professional fees, promotional expenses, anything underneath there that you can also deduct to get to what is known as taxable income. And that's what you pay tax on. And it's going to be a lot lower than your top line revenue. So
and I record all that stuff goes to my accountant as well. Yeah.
Which it needs to, especially with the numbers that we can be talking about in the hobby these days. Global Sports Card Investor says, absolutely appreciate both your efforts and insights. Thank you, Global, for that. Jim Goodfellas, big props to both these guys. Both have their own niche. Yeah, no doubt. And thank you very much. Todd B, I think, is this the same answer as the card you were talking about before? What piece of Ripken memorabilia would be the holy grail of your collection?
Yeah, it's the 1980 orange border.
Daniel A, hello and welcome to the show late. Chris, love the Jedi style hairstyle. Very cool.
Right. He gets it.
Is that a tribute to Star Wars?
It is. I'm a Padawan, meaning I'm training to be a Jedi, and when I become a Jedi, I cut it off.
Here's a cool comment from Valentini. It speaks to what I mentioned earlier, just about relationships and being fair. He says, we specifically went to Jeremy to buy his cards when we could have went to all the other dealers at the Toronto Expo. We appreciate this channel, and that's how I think Jeremy can benefit from us viewers. And
definitely.
I did benefit because these guys bought several cards from me, and I'm not, 3-4 digit cards. So, but the other benefit was meeting people, making new friends. I mean, can't say enough about it, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
So thank you to the Valentini Kitchens crew, for sure. Marco and Mickey. Sean Johnson says, my two favorite card collecting content creators in one place. You both are hobby vets. I would love to hear your takes about the dark years of relative hobby collapse in the late 90s to the 2000s. And it's funny, Chris, because I wanted to speak specifically about the second half of the 90s. So Sean Johnson, you're thinking along the same lines as I am. Yeah. So let's get into this for a couple minutes, Chris. And I'll just preface it by saying that when I wanted to talk about it, I started to refer to that era. It's a short era. It's literally what you have here. It's 1995 to the year 2000, and I'm calling it the creative era. It comes after the junk wax era, and it comes before the game used era, the game used and autograph era, which is really what I consider modern, which for ease and convenience, we'll say starts in 2000. So even though I recognize there were autos and mem before that, but it really became the regular occurrence in the early 2000s. I call it the creative era, but I do, the dead era is an apt name for it as well. It's the only 5-year window of my life where I wasn't completely immersed in the hobby. I've been completely immersed in this hobby really since about 1980, 81. Completely immersed, dominated my life since then, except for that 5-year period. And now, ironically as it would be, that 5-year period, Chris, is like my favorite era of the hobby. And I deeply regret not being as active in those 5 years as I was every other year of my life. So that kind of sets the context for that discussion. So, the dark years, as Sean Johnson says it. So Chris, with you, let's start with your sort of take on those 5 years and how you look back upon them.
Yeah, so that's a really the 90s is fascinating. And I was heavily involved throughout the 90s. I sort of stopped around 2000 actually. So I was big into it these years. But the 90s is fascinating because if you look at the hobby in 1990 and then again in 2000, they're nothing alike. In 1990, it's a hobby for kids. You go to a card show, it's mostly kids. By 2000, all the kids were gone. And so through the 90s, the peak of the hobby is like 1990, let's say, around there in terms of number of viewers, or the first peak. Now we're sort of in a second peak now, 1990. And then it steadily decreased through the 90s because it was such a popular hobby that all these new brands started entering. And every year there was just more and more and more and more brands. And the chase card, the insert, became the thing. And that just like escalated at such a rapid pace, like you said. And then when you get into the late 90s, there's just so many brands. If you look at it, there's like brands you've never even heard of that were around, Fleer Focus. And it was like any word you could think of, they just put at the end. It was like Fleer Maximum, Fleer Focus, Upper Deck, Ultra, or whatever they could come up with. And then I think there was something like 60 brands in 1999. And so the companies were just competing, and they're getting creative because they had to one up each other in terms of making the hot new design and the hot new chase card. And it was funny, like the hobby declined in terms of viewership, but increased in terms of creativity. It's sort of like an interesting.
It's funny how the cards got that much more interesting and unique, and all the die cuts and the different foils and everything that make, and the stocks that were used, the jambalaya, the lenticular, the use of lenticular and jambalayas.
Yeah.
Right. It was yet the hobby was, I believe the hobby public was so disenchanted with what happened in the first half of the 90s that they weren't even willing to look at the hobby in that second half. The card companies responded by getting more creative and unique in their designs and their issues. Yet there were fewer people there to purchase them. And now that's the era that people are really, myself included, looking back to and saying, I want to dive in and acquire cards from them because I'm just so enamored by it. I don't even know how else to put it. I'm just so interested in it and, trying to learn more. It seems like every day you can discover a card from that era, whether you collect Michael Jordan or Ken Griffey Jr., someone who was in a lot of sets. You can look back every day and find a card that you'd never seen before. Do you ever experience that?
It's amazing. It's amazing. Yeah. Have you off the top of your head, you recommend 1996 Pinnacle Skylines?
Doesn't ring a bell.
Skyline. Exactly. It's like an insert that like you wouldn't even, but it's like the coolest looking insert. And they're actually pretty rare and expensive, but like nobody even knows about them because it's just like there were so many good ones that they got lost.
Yeah, exactly. And that, see, for my situation where I was less active, much less active for that 5-year period, everything that I'm discovering is new as if it was brand new back then. It keeps the hobby that much more interesting for me nowadays. And I can go back and pursue some of those cards and really enjoy them as if it's the first time, because for me it is. So it's kind of, it's cool that way. Okay, let's switch it up here, Dave. And we're well behind in the comments as far as the time on the clock goes, but that's okay. We're going to work our way through them. And Chris, by the way we're going, we may have to get you back for a part 2 at some point if we can get you to wake up in the middle of your night again.
I'm down.
He's down. All right, perfect. David French says, how does Chris afford all the time spent creating his episodes? Is he monetizing well? Would you do an episode breaking down what you make from your YouTube videos?
I've been asked that. I might do that at some point. I make a little bit, not enough from the channel to make a living, I would say. But I kind of do 2/3 of my time goes to the channel, 1/3 of my time goes to my card dealing life. And the channel has, like I said, brought in a lot of benefits to my card dealing. I mean, like I said, a lot of people sell me their collections, which has benefited the 1/3 aspect. So from a strictly like money directly from YouTube, it's good, not great, but overall things are great.
Yeah, and the intangible benefit of just the enjoyment and networking and
I'd be going crazy if I didn't have my channel, because I'd just be on eBay. I'd be on eBay 10 hours a day and becoming a crazy person.
Yeah, I hear that. It was the best thing I ever started. I started mine in April of 2020, and thankfully I did, because it made this whole pandemic era that much. It's I hate to say it, but I will just, and it's somewhat tongue in cheek, but I've said, to people outside the hobby in my life that the pandemic has been a great era of my life. The pandemic's been great for me, because I've created this channel. I've made so many new friends, and it's benefited me in many ways, especially just from and taking up the time, right? Spending the time, feeling productive, and delivering value to others, because we get great feedback on what we're doing. So it's just well, I'll leave it at that. Let's go on.
Similar for me.
Yeah, for sure. Todd McDonald says, do you think any of the new products like soccer or F1 will grow the hobby in Europe? What are your thoughts on that, Chris?
Long term, yes. I think soccer and F1 are there's so much. Well, they don't have the base foundation like hockey, like we were talking earlier, but I think the upside on those is insane.
I agree. And I think I agree completely with both of them. I think they're the two sort of key sports and sports card, niches or whatever, that if there is a way to penetrate, for the hobby to penetrate the other countries, it's going to be soccer and F1. I mean, F1 is a sport of riches. So, it's a sport where just to go and observe it in person is extremely expensive, more than any North American sporting event. So if, as Carvin Chung has been known to say, and if anyone doesn't know who Carvin is, he worked at Upper Deck and invented Exquisite, and worked at Panini and came up with National Immaculate, maybe even National Treasures. He invented the cup at Upper Deck for hockey. But he's done a couple cool things. He's done a couple cool things. He's a true legend. And he said that, if like what is it, Saudi Arabia or the United Emirates, if these countries ever get onto cardboard, look out, because there's a ton of money there and there's a ton of interest in F1. Never mind soccer, which is worldwide. Obviously, it's not only in first world countries, but so I think that there is potential for the hobby to blow up. I mean, basketball has done a great job in Asia, let's say, to grow the hobby there. Why can't soccer do it in Europe and South America, and F1 do it around the world? I mean, F1 is in a different country every week or every second week, so it's in a different hemisphere even, or continent. So
no, and with Fanatics, I mean, they're a global brand. With the U.S. is what, 5% of the world population. I mean, just think of the potential audience for. I mean, the number of soccer fans out there, or I don't know where Formula One would sort of rank worldwide, but there's literally 100 soccer fans for every baseball fan. It doesn't feel like that, but that's the potential market.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. Eric says, what is a baseball card? Never heard of it. Is it like a hockey card? And Eric lives in Boston.
I don't know. Pass.
Pass on that. Okay, let's keep going. PSA Slab Guy says, do you have a target percent of value you generally pay for a collection? How do you factor in the time involved to sell it? I think we kind of touched on that a little bit, but I'm just gonna say, for me, there is no target percent. Every collection is different. It really depends on the volume of cards. In the bigger the collection, the lower the percent I'm willing to pay, because the factor is time. I think that's much a general rule. Anything else to add to that, Chris?
You and I should buy collections together, because that's exactly what I was going to say. I have no target percentage. In fact, I think going in with a target percentage in mind is a mistake.
Agreed.
Because every collection is different, and it depends on many factors that are beyond just what should I pay and what should I sell it for. And time is the biggest factor. Yeah,
exactly. Okay, next comment here. Andrew Mark says dollar cost averaging, which is, I think, when in relation to when we were talking about not timing the market, just always buying, and therefore you're always kind of buying. You're going to always be at the average in a way. But I can say that if you're savvy in the hobby and you have a bit of foresight and you have experience, you can still have it work in your favor. I feel like I've been able to do that. How about you, Chris?
So explain more what you mean. Just always buying?
Well, yeah, dollar cost averaging, for anyone who doesn't know, pretty much means that, if you buy a share of Apple once a week on Saturday, every Saturday, you're just dollar cost averaging your buy, so that you're never gonna you're just gonna always kind of be buying, and therefore you believe in the long-term strength of the market or that particular holding. So it's like if you buy a Kobe Topps Chrome rookie, if you bought one for 20,000 and now you can buy one for 10, okay, I'm dollar cost averaging down from 20 grand to 15 by buying one at 10. So you're bringing down your average cost. If you're buying on the upswing, you're taking up your average cost, though.
Yeah, I gotcha. I don't have a short. It sounds like I'm saying again, same as you. I don't have a short-term view on stuff, so I'm never like buying a card thinking I'm going to sell it a month later because it's going to go up. I don't have that mentality, or very rarely, let's say. There's times when I identify a card that I think is undervalued, but I don't think, oh, this card's going to go up, because so I'm just always buying and always reselling. And if you have a long-term mentality, it doesn't really matter what the current if the market's down now or if it's up now, it doesn't matter. If you
Exactly. And Pastime says, never time the market. If you buy quality stuff you like, you will never lose. And
Pastime nailed it. Yeah.
Yeah. There's truth to that. And I hear people saying that a lot. However, I just want to add one caveat to that comment, which is, if what you love costs you what is a lot of money to you, so whatever, say $10,000, if what you love
Honus Wagner cards.
What's that?
I love Honus Wagner cards.
Right. Yeah. You don't have to worry about Honus. Honus is a blue chip. But if what you love is $10,000 and is a player who is in his first or second year, you might learn to not love it if that card goes from $10,000 to $500. You might not love that card anymore. So
that's true. Yeah.
I think you have to. It's a great comment, but I think you have to sort of take it with a grain of salt. And I hear it a lot, but I always think, there's a degree of There's a caveat to that, I believe. So,
well, the younger the player, the bigger the risk, right?
100%. That's an universal truth right there,
Yeah.
right there. A nice comment from Joe R says, the two legends of the hobby right here. You both are awesome with all the info for this great hobby. Thank you very much, Joe R. But I will say there are more than just two legends. And thank you for putting that status upon us. Top of the fifth says, what's the best grading service for vintage baseball in your opinion, Chris?
Well, in terms of the hobby, like not so much my opinion, but PSA is the distant leader by a wide margin. SGC is the clear number 2, and then there's a long drop before whoever's number 3.
Yeah. And I would echo that. I mean, it just, even if you did a video, I believe it was you, Chris, that did a video recently showing the amount of listings on eBay that were PSA versus Beckett versus SGC, and like PSA was like, I don't forget the exact numbers, but like 1.2 million, and Beckett was like 250,000. So
PSA had 2/3 of all the listings.
All the listings.
So everyone else combined is 1/3.
It's far and away, I would say, the market leader, or in terms of market share. Does that?
By a mile, yeah, and no matter what you hear people say, it's a distant leader by all realistic measures, and especially with vintage, because in modern you can at least point to Beckett as with high end modern, you see Beckett show up a lot. With vintage, there's no one competing with PSA at the moment. That may change.
And it's funny, you've been around long enough, Chris, to recognize, especially going to the National back in the 2000s, that SGC was right neck and neck with PSA as far as vintage, especially pre-war went in the 2000s, the first decade of this current century. I remember walking around the National, and there were as many cards in SGC slabs as there were in PSA. Now that's no longer been my observation, but do you remember those days?
No. So you're talking about the early, like the early 2000s?
Yeah.
No. So that was the years when I was sort of out of the hobby. I don't remember a time when SGC was on par with. I sort of remember people saying pre-war. You said pre-war. Pre-war stuff. There are a lot of SGC collectors because the cards just kind of look nicer, or to some people's opinion, it just looks nicer. And the grading is similar in terms of strictness, but I don't remember a time when I would have said SGC was on par with PSA, but again, that's only going back to about 2011.
Yeah, no, fair. That was my perception of being at the show, at the big shows, the National specifically in Chicago, like 2007, 2008, even as late as those years, seeing just tons of SGC. But now it's definitely kind of veered towards, or heavily, as we just mentioned, towards PSA for
that was back when they had the 1 to 100 scale.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Troy's Collectibles, under the formerly Adventures with Troy. Thank you very much for the tip, Troy. Says thanks, Jeremy, for the live stream, and thanks, Chris, for staying up at 5 a.m. your time. Yeah. Please help out. Hit that like button. Thank you, Troy. Appreciate that very much. Lee Haskins saw Chris a few times at the Chantilly show. Cool to see one of the YouTubers in person. Yeah, no doubt.
Love the Chantilly show. Yeah.
Mark says, I never miss either of your shows. Hypothetically, if either of you were to become the CEO of Topps, what direction, sport or hobby, would you steer it into, or would you sell the company? Hire me to sell it. That's an easy short.
I would sell it immediately. I have no interest in that. But yeah. What would you go for?
Well, it's tough. It's tough to say. There's so much uncertainty being the CEO of Topps right now in terms of what's going to happen with Fanatics. I recently heard Josh Luber, I believe it was Josh, that said that they don't foresee there being Fanatics branded cards. So what does that mean then? Whose brands are going to be on the cards? Is it going to be Topps?
There's not going to be like a Fanatics brand. They're just going to buy out other brands. That's what I don't know what they're going to do, but what I heard he said was that he doesn't foresee there being Fanatics branded cards. So what is that? We can interpret that however we want. I don't know what that means exactly. I'd be speculating, but it just speaks to the uncertainty that Topps is under right now, and Panini.
Upper Deck is the only company that seems to be unscathed by all this.
Upper Deck is fine.
they just extended their exclusive licenses with NHL and NHLPA, and they have other properties as well. But so I don't. It's a great question, Mark, and would need more thought, I think, for me. But if there was no Fanatics, let's say the Topps was the one that extended their license, I think the answer would be a lot different. And you know, it's a great question, but I don't know. I don't know exactly what I do. I wouldn't sell it though. I wouldn't sell the company. That's for sure.
Well, you would have to. I mean, you know, for Topps, baseball is your bait. I mean, that's the only of the 4 major sports they have at the moment. So you gotta continue focusing there. But I would expand on soccer and Formula One, like we've mentioned, MMA. I mean, I think these other sports are going to continue to rise. So I would keep branching out in that way as one idea. I don't know if Topps can't go into football and basketball, I assume, or hockey. Right.
Yeah. No, it's a great. Maybe what I would do is I would try to do it what Fanatics did and try and get licenses from the other sports as well. But that's obviously
why did Fanatics not go after hockey? I'm sure they could have just outbid Upper Deck in whatever manner.
I had the president of Upper Deck, Jason Mashra, on the show here last month or so, and you know, we asked the same question, and it really came down to long-term relationship. It came down to the relationship that they had with the league and the NHLPA, and their willingness to work with them, I believe. So, you know, whether or not we don't know that Fanatics made a bid at hockey. We just, you know, you assume it, but you don't know for sure. But yeah, I definitely ask people, or, you know, recommend go watch the video on my channel on Sports Cards Live with Jason Mashra and see what he said to that. It was a great interview. He provided a lot of insight into what's going on at Upper Deck and sort of how they were able to secure the hockey licenses from the league and the PA. It's really a feather in their cap that they were able to do that.
No, it's actually I hadn't really thought of it till right now. It's actually amazing because I assumed that Fanatics. This is, I guess, speculation as well. I just assumed Fanatics came in and just outbid everyone by like some ridiculous amount. That even though Major League Baseball has a 60-70 year relationship with Topps, they're like, well, this is just too much money to pass on. That's what I assumed happened. So I would have guessed they could have done that because they have so much. Fanatics has so much more money than any Topps or Panini or Upper Deck. So I would have assumed they would have done that. I mean, why not do that with hockey as well? But maybe that's not what happened. I don't know.
It's all speculation, but it's fun to speculate about, and that's a fun question, Mark. Thanks for putting it out there. Question, we could obviously spend a lot more time on that one, but I like this comment here from David French as far as you and your channel goes, Chris. He says, would like to see an episode about the cards that changed the hobby. Example, 52 Topps, 81 Fleer, Donruss, 91 Upper Deck.
Yeah, great idea.
Wild card Lombardi Hollow, which is the Lombardi Hollow is the Pro Set card that David's talking about, which is similar to the Stanley Cup hologram, which is the first big insert in a card that I love. So I remember the Lombardi hologram. Numbered cards, foil cards, 89 Upper Deck finest. Have you? I know you've done videos like the top 10 Prism cards, that kind of thing. Have you thought about doing an episode, or have you already, that kind of talks about?
I did. Well, yeah, not exactly this, but I did. It was a long time ago, more than a year ago. It was the hobby first. So this was the first refractor set. This was the first insert. I don't know. This was the first autograph card. This was the first jersey card. There was a few others, but I did that. And a couple of the ones you're mentioning were on that list. Well, maybe not, but yeah, the first, yeah. So I did that, but the first parallel, that was from Wild Card, right?
Yeah, I do remember that video. That was a great one.
Yeah.
Timeless Cardboard says, Chris, what YouTubers do you enjoy watching? Sports Cards Live.
Well, by far the best is Sports Card Live. No, I watch quite a. I don't have a whole lot of time to watch, but I watch Personal Finance Dad with Dustin, and she collects cards, and I watch you when I get a chance, and I sort of spread around and watch a little bit of everybody. But those are the three that jumped to my mind first.
Awesome. Coach Mickey says, during a time when everyone is an expert, Chris seems to have more knowledge and experience than most and always comes across very humble at the same time. Two of my favorite content creators. I agree wholeheartedly with that, Coach Mickey. I mean, that's what I think. And this is a great segue into what I wanted to ask you, Chris, because again, I alluded to it earlier at the beginning that, your channel has gone through this meteoric rise. We started around the same time. You started, like, I think I'm in April 2020. When did you start? Just earlier, right?
March 2020.
March.
Yeah.
So Chris has 1 month more than me, but 10 times the subscribers, maybe 11 times
No,
the
but
subscribers.
yeah, all right.
Well, part of it, I think, is my videos are all 2 hours long, so it's harder to get people to click, which is fair. I completely understand it. But despite that, I think this comment is great because it does speak to just your temperament, the way you deliver information. You're straight and to the point, very humble at all times, which is endearing to the viewer. What I wanted to ask you, though, is like, just again, this meteoric rise of your channel, 40,000 plus subscribers. I can only think of maybe 3 that have more in the space than you do. I'm sure there's more, but that's all that I'm really aware of. Speak to that. How do you kind of just sort of reconcile that in your own mind, but also to give you something else to kind of speak to, how do you keep up with all the comments that you get on all your videos?
Yeah. So, well, first of all, thank you for that. I started this really as just sort of a filler to be involved in the hobby. It was more of that. It was not this is what I want to do with my life at all. It was like, I miss cards. I'm in Europe. Maybe this is something I can do to interact with people a little bit. And then it really didn't grow very fast at first. Took, I don't know how long it took you to get to 1,000 subscribers or whatever, some of these key milestones for the YouTube algorithm, but it took, it wasn't growing very fast, and then at some point it just started shooting up, and I was like, wow, this is cool. And so yeah, it was very unexpected, and it's sort of like you were saying, it's like 2020 I think was a hard year for a lot of people. For me, it was actually a very good year because I sort of rediscovered this aspect of my life now, and it's very cool in that sense. Sorry, what was the second part of your question?
All the comments you get, like within a day, you've got 200 comments on all your videos. How do you keep up with that?
Yeah, I make a point once a day, usually after I put my son to bed, to just go through as many comments as I want. I mean, as many comments as I can. I can't answer them all anymore. Like, I used to answer every comment. Or anyone who said, "Hey, I love the video," I'd say, "Oh, thanks so much." Even that, I can't do that anymore. There's just not enough time. But I read every single one, and I try to answer every question. I certainly answer anyone who has a question, and if anyone says something really nice or has a really really smart take on something, I always heart it or comment to it. And actually, this, like I mentioned before, this is something, when I started the channel. Again, I'm a very private person. I don't have any social media. I have an Instagram and a Twitter. I never use them on any level. And I don't, it's not my thing to be connected on social media. And when I started the channel, my wife was like, Chris, if you want to grow your channel, you're really going to have to interact with people online, and you're not going to want to do that. And I was like, yeah, all right, well, I'll just do it, because to try to grow the but it's like been I thought I was going to hate it. It's been the complete opposite. It's like one of my favorite things, and I have no issues doing that every night. It's like something I look forward to. And my wife like makes fun of me of, oh, don't let your fans down or whatever. So yeah, it's great.
It's like I said earlier, you can't quit, Chris, because you'd let down way too many people. It's become routine for your regular episodes. I like the one-off stuff. I enjoy that. High rollers, I kind of keep on top of what things sell for. So I don't need to watch it every week, but I certainly, it's always nice to just put it on, and I can, put cards into sleeves or whatever I might be doing with my own collection, and have it on in the background and just kind of see what's going on and what you've caught. But I do enjoy the one-off sort of episodes that you'll do here and there. Whether it's your conversations with your old deal partner Jeremy, or which were excellent, or going over your collections. But I want to ask you, do you have any other ideas? Are we, as your audience, are we in store for any new types of videos, any new content that you're looking at doing? Are you are you on the lookout for new ideas? How do you develop a new idea? Kind of a bunch of questions I just threw at you there, but can you kind of speak to all of that?
Yeah, no, and the answer is sort of no. Like at the moment, I'm just sort of going through the motions, and the channel continues to sort of grow at an okay pace for me. And I'm not short of video ideas. Do I have my, yeah, my list of future video ideas is like, there's like 50. So
Okay, good.
I'm not running out of content at all. I think I would like to do more, deals that I buy. People seem to really like that when I go to a show and I buy, what did I buy at the show, and just go through that. I think people really seem to enjoy that. And I'd like to expand on that and do something more creative with it, because right now I just sort of showing the cards and talking about them. Not sure what it would be, but yeah.
No, I'm glad to hear you have a list of 50, because that just tells me that you're not slowing down, and that's your pipeline, right? So you'll keep that list, and as you go through it, you will come up with more ideas, and you'll be able to keep that list nice and deep as the weeks and months go by, hopefully the years as well. Yeah. So, we're almost an hour 40. We're going to go for about 2 hours. Chris, we'll go for about 20 more minutes.
Sure.
We're way behind in the comments, close to 40 minutes. So I'm going to, just for everyone who's in the chat, again, thank you for all the comments, all the great questions. You're really helping keep this episode moving at a nice pace. But I did just scroll past a whole bunch without looking at them, just to try and catch up. So if I missed your comment, we just don't have time for them all. So we'll have Chris back in due course, and I invite anyone to come back at that time and ask your question again then, definitely. But in the meantime, let's get to a couple more. First, I want to say hi to my friend Dave Kaplan. Benny Cromwell says another great show. We'll check out Chris's YouTube shows. I find it hard to believe that someone is subscribed to Sports Cards Live and not your channel, Chris. So there you go. I can return the favor and send a new subscriber your way, as I'm sure you've sent a few my way.
Yeah, appreciate that, Benny.
Okay, let's see. Ben says the gap between PSA and the other grading companies will grow even more. Can see that happening. ASMR says yes, SGC rules pre-war from 2005 to 2010. So thank you for corroborating what I was saying earlier. ASMR.
Interesting, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Triple V says great show. Vintage is always on my radar. F1 has been high as of late, but still hopeful for deals. I mean, I passed on some F1 unopened boxes 2 months ago at like a quarter of what they're selling for now. But hey, that's the way things go. Yeah. Jim says, any thoughts about collecting sports tickets and ticket stubs? How about for you, Chris? Any interest in that corner of the hobby?
No, yeah, I mean, those are cool, but that's not my thing. I'm strictly a cards guy. I do almost nothing with memorabilia, or I don't know why.
No, you know what? I mean, it's no.
If someone
say that,
yeah,
I'm smiling inside, Chris, because I'm the exact same way. People, how about this one? I'm sure you've heard this. Why would you spend $1,000 on a piece of memorabilia that big when you can buy the whole jersey for $1,000? And my answer is, I don't collect jerseys. Yeah. I collect cards. So I don't want the whole jersey. I've got room for a couple of them. That's always hard to point here. There they are. That's all I've got room for. I collect cards. So same thing with me, Chris. Ticket stubs, I agree with you. Very cool. They commemorate a moment in time or an evening in time, an afternoon. But it's just like NFTs. I don't collect them. I don't collect ticket stubs. I have ones that I went to from games, but I'm not out there looking for the bat. Now, I do follow one very cool Instagram account. He collects ticket stubs, and they're all from very important events. I enjoy following that account because it's educational, and I find the tickets to be cool. But I'm happy to enjoy it through their activity versus my own.
Yeah, yeah. When I first got back into dealing, like 10 years ago, I wasn't sure if I would be able to make enough money in just sports cards to make a living. So I was trying to expand into other things, and I was trying to learn coins and memorabilia. And I quickly just learned that it's not my thing. Cards I don't even know why. It's a little piece of paper with a picture of some guy I don't know on it. But
It's nostalgia, Chris. You know why? I think I know why. And I've like self-analyzed. Why do I collect these things? So why do I love these things so much? All they are is what you said,
Yeah.
8¼ square inches of cardboard most of the time with a picture of some dude.
Yeah, some dude
who I don't know. You know,
we'll never know.
We'll
never
know.
meet.
I think part of it is there's a collector gene. There's this human impulse to acquire things and to hoard to a degree.
Yeah.
And it's nostalgic, right? It really takes us back to when we were kids and we used to trade these at recess. We used to want to complete our base sets of however many cards they were.
Yeah.
Depends on the sport and the brand, of course. And for me, and I've gone really introspective on this in the past to the point where, you know, I grew up with a lot of kids that had a lot more money than my family did. And every weekend I would take my $2 allowance and I would go buy 8 packs of cards if I didn't spend some money on candy or going to the movies.
Yeah.
Whereas other kids that I grew up with that went to my school, they would get a whole box of cards. They get all 36 or 48 packs. And I was very envious of that. I wanted to be able to get a whole box, and it just wasn't within our means. I was limited to, you know, 1 to 8 packs. And if I wanted to find that last card for my set, I had to get very lucky. I couldn't just go get a whole box and be guaranteed to get it. And I've kind of wondered, and this is really personal, but I've kind of wondered along the way, am I still striving to get that box of cards that I couldn't afford in 1983 or 1985? You know, am I still chasing that? And, you know, it's kind of awkward to say that out loud, but maybe that's part of my nostalgia. Maybe it's obviously part of my story and my life experience, and partly, but is that what drives me now to keep on wanting to have great cards? And I don't know. I just thought of this because you said, I don't know why. So I've tried to understand it for myself. With me saying all that, does that maybe open up any thoughts for you?
Well, for sure, the connection to your childhood is a big part of it for me. Nostalgia is a big part. It's like a combination of a lot of, maybe that's what it is. It's just like there's nothing you can get all these things in one item, like a nostalgia, a connection to your childhood, a piece of art. You know, they're like pieces of art in a way now, and it's an investment. It's like all these things are in one. Like, what else is a connection to your childhood, nostalgic, a piece of art, and an investment all in one thing?
I agree, and it's the other thing is that I find that in life, you know, whether you're disenchanted with some aspect of your life, whatever that might be, career, relationships, family, anything, we being us collectors, you, me, and everyone who's watching right now, we can always come back to our cards. I think in a way they can always ground us. You know, if you're a true collector, a true hobbyist, you're not just in it for the money sort of thing, you can always count on your cards, and you can always count, at least I know I can, on your card friends, which is, you know, it's more so than just the cards themselves. Now it's the community. It's the people, the relationships that we've built by virtue of going to card shows, by virtue of having sports card YouTube channels, by virtue of Instagram, Facebook groups, local card shops, trader nights. All these things are the hobby. And we can,
so that's so true. Yeah.
You can always count on it. Do you feel the same way?
100%. It's really well said, what you just said. And sort of piggybacking on that to something we talked about earlier, like when sometimes people say, you know, are we in a junk wax era part 2? And certainly there's similarities, but I would say the big difference is what you just said, the social media, the online community. Like, there's so much connection now. You know, when I in 1990, I had 5 card friends, and that was sort of it. And I could go to my one local store, and there was if I bought a pack of cards, there was nobody to show it to, or, you know, I had to wait till the weekend to trade with or whatever. Today, you can post all over places, huge communities. Like you said, I know, hundreds of people now. And I think that's going to help keep the hobby strong for a long time. Yeah.
I agree, man. 100%. That's going to help keep the hobby strong. Instagram does a great job of that. It provides that platform for relationships to develop and people to to share their collections. It's a positive environment, I find, for the most part, unlike some environments that we can be a part of. And so I think that social media really has been an enabler for the hobby to grow and flourish, I believe.
Yeah.
So, and social media isn't going anywhere. So,
well, and another thing, something when I started the channel, I was expecting a lot of negativity in comments. I just thought that was just something that happens in social media. You just get mean, people being mean and people saying mean. That just essentially never happens on my. It was just, or it does happen. You'll get the occasional jerk comment, but it's like 99% positive. When someone asks a question, a bunch of people jump in to help with the answer. It's really cool.
Yeah, 100%. Definitely. The one thing I'll say is, and there's a comment right here from Trevor Gates says, Chris is always kind, polite, humble. Can we get him Canadian citizenship? which is very stereotypical of Canadians. But, you also, I would be very surprised to read a negative comment on one of your videos. And it's simply because of just your personality. You are humble. You're out there to educate. You do entertain. Again, it's kind of that you're almost like the dry humor guy in a way, which I love. I
do love dry humor.
Yeah. So that's I would be surprised to see a negative comment on one of your videos, unless someone just vehemently disagrees with something you've said, or it's a negative comment on a different comment or something like that. But let's go on here. ASMR says, so you both have been in the hobby for years. Do you have opinions on Card Investor? Oh, I think he's talking about Sports Card Investor being Jeff Wilson, or Neo being Northeast Ohio Sports Cards. To me, it's interesting, old school collectors versus sports card traders. So do you have opinions on them? I mean, do you want to go first?
You go first.
Sure. My take is, and I've met both of them in person. And I had very positive experiences with both. Jeff Wilson of Sports Card Investor, met him in person at the Sport Card Expo 2 weeks ago. And he was at that show doing only good things. He was spreading the hobby. He was involved heavily with kids. I actually guest judged a kids kind of pack war event with Jeff. And I was impressed by just, how he was really growing the hobby amongst the young people at the show. I thought it was great. As for Neo, met Neo at the National, great guy. His content is very popular. Check it out. And I think it's just NEO Sports Cards or Northeast. If you type in Northeast Ohio Sports Cards, you will find it. And he's another one of these guys that just, his style is very engaging. I find he's easy to listen to. I know a lot of people love his stuff. And I welcome everybody into the hobby, except for people who are scamming. If you're scamming, I don't want you in the hobby. If you're doing fraudulent things, please leave. But I welcome everyone in the hobby. I think it's a great place. And there's especially young people. I think the hobby is great for youngsters to develop self-confidence, self-esteem, and through dealing with adults. You have a kid at a car, and Chris, I'm sure you've experienced this. You're at a card show, you're dealing with someone who might be 15 years old or younger, and you see these kids dealing with, adults in the hobby who are behind the desk, and they are negotiating, they are standing up for themselves, they are saying, well, they're just entering into a discussion.
It's funny to see.
Yeah.
Cool.
I think the hobby provides a great arena for growth. I think is what is how I would put that. Any comments on that, Chris?
Yeah, well, I mean, Sports Card Investor, that's the cream of the crop in the YouTube, sports card space. I think when I first, I think he even was when I first, started my channel. I think he was by far number one, and in terms of viewership, he's a distant number one, and it's impressive as someone who makes YouTube content. That's like the gold standard, right? Just in terms of
he's the PSA of YouTube.
He's the PSA, right?
He's that far ahead of everybody.
Yeah, and I don't know either of them personally on any level, so I can't really speak to that. But like with you, I tend to have a very optimistic view of everyone in the hobby, unless they're doing something notably like scamming, or they're really, bringing in a lot of negativity. And I don't see that with those guys. So I would say they're both great.
Yeah. And they're bringing more and more people in through YouTube because, especially Sports Card Investor, his videos are going to be trending and that sort of thing. So there's more and more people that are going to see. And, his content, no one's content is for everybody,
Right.
but, it's a way in, and then people will discover other content that speaks to them and that resonates with them. And hopefully just stay in the hobby. That's really what it comes down to for me, is growing this thing, because I think it's just a great hobby and I want as many people to enjoy it as possible.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. D Khan says, do you think your film background plays a role in your YouTube videos? And PS, I'm an OG follower from summer of 2020. So he therefore knows about your film background.
Yeah,
So,
nice.
Yeah. What do you think about that, Chris?
Yeah, I think it probably does a little bit. I don't know, just in terms of like editing, I think I do a lot more editing than most channels. And I did a lot of editing I learned a lot of editing from my film background. And then the stories that, when I tell a story about a purchase, I script that all out. And I did a lot of script writing as part of my filmmaking background. So I assume that's helped me. Yeah.
Good. I mean, I asked you that same question the other day as when we were chatting. So great question, D-Con. And I think it's one of those things where you don't even realize it's helping you, Chris.
Yeah.
I
think so too. Yeah.
And I can tell you, man, like, because I have no interest in doing the traditional type of YouTube video where, I only do lives. So editing and spending hours editing, I don't want to have to learn editing software. And I know Ryan Nolan from Breakout Card spends a ton of time, and his work speaks for itself, but so much time editing his videos. He puts out a great product. I mean, there's only so much time, I can't spend 10 hours editing a video with everything else I have going on in life. So you don't even realize how much it helps you, is what I mean.
Probably. Yeah.
For sure. What's up, Modern Crime and Cards? Great to see you. Max says, will you ever sell Regular Rollers t-shirts, which I think is a great idea. Have you ever thought about merch?
Yeah. So a number of people ask for merch, like, Blazer Division or Regular Rollers. And I looked into it. I didn't, you sell it, like, I didn't like the way it was set up. And maybe there's a good way to do it, but like the companies I was looking at to design t-shirts, it was like, they would sell a t-shirt for $25 and I would get like $4 of it. And it didn't feel like something worthwhile doing. But
so if anyone out there is in the merch business, Chris can sell a lot of merch. So reach out to him and set this guy up, because I'll buy a regular roller shirt and a high roller shirt.
And Blazer Division.
A Blazer Division and a sports card collector, investor, dealer. All it needs to say is in that order. If you were to walk into a card show with a shirt that said in that order, that's all it said. How many people would know what you were talking about? I bet a lot of people would know.
Yeah.
That's what I want on a shirt, Chris. In that order. Those three words.
Okay.
I love it. Jeremy Allen says, are you going to the Dallas show in January?
No, don't have plans for that. I'm going to Philadelphia. And then the next one I think I'm scheduled to go to is Chantilly. I might go to Vegas. You were going to ask me that, I know, at some point. I might do Vegas if I can combine it with the Super Bowl. Like, I love watching the Super Bowl at the Vegas Sportsbook, and I have friends who would meet me there for that. So I might try to do that. I think they're a week apart from each other. So
it is, yeah. The Mint Collective. I'll throw it up again on the ticker here.
By the way, do you know how many tables they plan to have there?
I don't know. I did see the floor plan for the show portion of the event. Again, it's a 3-day event with a show, I believe 1 or 2 of the days, but there are other sort of events throughout the weekend. I don't know how many tables there are going to be, but for anybody who's watching, I will be there. It is the weekend before the Super Bowl. It's in Vegas, January 28th to 30th. You can go to themintcollective.com to learn more. Dana White will be speaking at this event. Josh Luber will be speaking at the event. Ken Golden will be speaking at the event, among many others. They're partnered up with Leland's to hold a special auction called the Mint 25. That's going to be exciting on the Friday night. So, sort of the first time where I think many people, myself included, will be in person at a sports card auction. Never mind internet bidding, right? Like the way it used to be. So,
interesting.
That'll be fun. As far as Dallas goes, I was talking to a local friend of mine yesterday, actually, about going to the show in March. I haven't told my wife yet, so that I would like to do that. But the Dallas show in March is one that I would like to get to myself.
The Dallas show's become sort of the biggest recurring one, right? I mean,
yeah.
So I'd like to get there at some point, but yeah, don't have plans to go in January.
Okay, well, maybe we can see each other there in March. That would be pretty cool.
There you go.
Work out.
Yeah.
I want to say hello to Brody the Kid, everybody. Brody, if you're still there, great to see you. Brody will be sitting in Chris's seat a week from today. He will be our guest on Sports Cards Live.
Oh, cool.
Next Saturday. Brody, if you don't know, is an amazing hobby ambassador. I'm going to throw up upcoming episodes right now on the ticker. He's a young hobby ambassador, about 15 years old, I think Brody is now. He's,
nice.
I co-host, or I'm one of a collection of hosts on Hobby Hotline, which is another YouTube channel, and Brody's a fellow co-host of mine on there. So he will be with me on this show next Saturday. We want to say hello to Teapot. I believe that might be maybe the Teapot who works with Sports Card Investor. If it is, hello. If not, well, hello to the other Teapot. I'd be kind of shocked if there were two people in the hobby that went by Teapot.
I'd be annoyed if I was Teapot and then somebody else showed up and said they were Teapot too.
It's funny, Chris, in my chat during episodes, whether, Ken Golden, for example, will show up in the chat. And I don't know if it's him for sure. Jeff Wilson from Sports Card Investor has showed up in the chat, but it's people impersonating them. So I'll actually say okay, Ken, if that's really you, direct message me on Instagram and let me know it's you. And then I get a direct message from Ken saying it's really me. I say, okay.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Now we know it's actually you, because that happens in the hobby. So to anyone out there who does live streams, if you have a chat and you think you have somebody in the hobby of some notoriety, just be warned that they might be people that are kind of pretending. So it's good to figure out how to get around that for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
I wanted to ask you, we're gonna wrap up pretty quick here, Chris. But let's get your some prediction from you. 2020, and I know you and we do not time the market. We've established that during this episode, but we can still have some fun.
Yeah. And
I think back to the end of 2020 when we were, the hobby was on an upswing. We didn't know what was going to happen from in Q1 of 2021, which was like this meteoric rise of the hobby.
Wow.
But any predictions from you as to what we can expect in 2022 as far as the hobby goes?
Well, I would, just in terms of like card values going up and down type of thing.
Anything. Yeah. Card values going up and down, any maybe consolidation at the sort of, at the company level, the infrastructure level, anything that you see coming in the hobby, and to the chat too. Any predictions from the chat?
Well, I think that I think the card market will sort of stabilize. I think you had said you think it will continue to be crazy. I think it will sort of stabilize, as I think we're coming out of the craziness. I think that ultra modern will fall, will continue to go down. There's just too much of it and too many PSA 10s of base cards, ultra modern base cards. Will continue to fall. Zion Williams, Prism, this sort of thing. I think the other parts will be fine. They'll sort of stabilize. Vintage will continue its stable, slow upward trend. Get sort of back to that is what I would predict. Yeah.
Yeah, fair.
Start with that.
I really agree on the base card idea that, it's going to become less and less important. I think what I've noticed happening, Q1 of 2021 was a crazy quarter in our hobby. When you look back, the
craziest ever. Yeah.
Yeah. If you take Q1 out of the history books, the hobby has been growing at a steady pace really for several years. If you put Q1 in, you look at any of the charts, you see that the hobby has come down. It looks like it's come down.
It throws you off if you look in the short term. Yeah.
Yeah. But if you zoom out and you take out the Q1 of 2021 spike, the hobby is doing just fine. And one of the reasons why I think the hobby is stabilized, and I do believe it has stabilized since, April, May, is because people who newer entrants are just getting smarter. They're realizing that rarity is very important.
Yeah.
It's probably the most important thing in the hobby, rarity. And, aside from the player depicted, rarity is extremely important. And just overall eye appeal and aesthetics are very important. So I think that the hobby in general has gotten smarter, and I think it's going to continue to get smarter. And with that, I think we should see continued stabilization, but we're always going to have ups and downs. No matter what happens, we're always going to have ups and downs. And there can always be two people that go crazy on bidding on an auction because they, for various reasons, either they want that card that night, money is of no object, maybe they've had a few drinks, whatever it might be, and they're going to set a new comp. And then the hobby's going to respond and think it's not real, or think that it's crazy, or how is this happening? And then everything, the fallout from that can easily happen. So
yeah, for sure.
I think that's my prediction. The hobby's going to continue to get smarter. And with all that said, I think that the next 5 years, until Fanatics licenses do come into effect, we're going to be in for a ride that way as well. And guys like us, Chris, who create content, we have to be thankful, because it's going to give us
the rights itself.
Right. Thank you, Fanatics, for doing that, because now we and every other content creator and just hobbyist in general has that much more kind of just subject matter to watch and to see how it transpires. It's going to be very, very interesting.
So. Let me make one more prediction that's sort of slightly off. I think that when you're buying online, eBay will decline. I think some of the COMCs and the PWCCs and the Star Stocks and the My Slabs, I think these are going to start becoming much better buying experiences for people to buy cards online than eBay. And I think we're going to start seeing that taking over the hobby. Maybe not in 2022, but it's going to start becoming a bigger thing. Like today, if you say my high rollers is all about eBay sales, because that's where the sales are. But in 3 years, I don't think, if I did a high rollers, I don't think it would make sense to do eBay sales, because I think we'll see bigger sales on other platforms.
Agree wholeheartedly. I've noticed my eBay activity has come down by a large margin over the past few months.
Yeah.
And it's funny. Chris HOJ, who's one of the founders of Card Ladder, who does say, Chris, if you have an interest in getting involved with the Mint Collective, let him know, and we'll get him in touch with Christina, who is his partner, fiance, and is one of the they are involved with the Mint Collective, as am myself. Any of us can really get you in touch with them if you want to come, and there's panels, maybe even get you on a panel there for one of their master class sessions, I believe, or signature sessions they're calling them now. So which would be fun and great to have you as a part of it, if not just as an attendee even, or a vendor at the show part. But Chris has been known to say that this sort of decentralization of the marketplace, which is really, people, there being so many more platforms than just eBay now, is, it makes it tougher to track the hobby. There's so many more sources of data that the data analytic tools need to source their data from.
Sure.
And it also, there was a big card that recently sold from an auction house. I don't even remember what it's called. The card sold for a respectful amount of money. It was an exquisite Wayne Gretzky rookie patch auto from 2009, a flashback card that looked like the LeBron James. But I didn't even know this thing was for sale until the day it was ending, because it was on some obscure auction house whose name I don't even know right now. I can't even tell you what it is. So the more platforms there are, the fewer people know about them all, the fewer bids they're going to get. Does that hurt the comps and therefore hurt the values of the hobby? It's an interesting discussion.
That is an interesting question. It could be. I think it'll be a great thing, though. Big picture. Maybe if there's too many of them, but it would be great if there were like 4 eBays, And I'm not so much talking about auction houses. I'm talking about like a marketplace where you can list your card. for me, COMC was the game changer for me because it's just such a better buying experience than eBay. Like you're just not dealing, and now we're seeing, Star Stock and PWCC and MySlab. I think MySlab is still, you still have to deal with the individual seller, but it's just such a better buying experience that I think that's going to take over. I would love to see just like 4 or 5 of those existing successfully.
Yeah, and then I think you still need the auction house to sell the big
Of course,
cards.
of course.
The headline grabbers.
The auction house is to me something separate.
Yeah, for sure. Let's go to this one. Nate Sprinkle says, I'd love to hear your thoughts on breakers and how that's changed the hobby. Huge fan of both your channels. Thank you, Nate. Breakers, Chris. And are you okay to go for a few more minutes? We are overtime here. What's your...
I'm good.
You're good? Okay. Yeah.
So breakers is not my thing at all. But no issue. I got no issues with them. I think they've brought a lot of people into the hobby. It's definitely exciting, and a lot of people, that's what's brought them in. So in that sense, I think it's like I said, and anything that brings people into the hobby or provides something else for people in the hobby to do, great. Not my thing at all. I don't participate in breaks in any way.
We're very similar, Chris. I don't participate in breaks either, but I agree that I've had a lot of people tell me over the past year that they got involved in the hobby by finding a breaker wherever they found them, and that's how they got involved. And then they've kind of, evolved their hobby activity and approach. Not that there's anything wrong with breakers, but there is an essence of gambling or an aspect of gamble to breaking. You don't know what you're going to get. Whereas if you just go on an eBay or an auction house and buy a card, you know exactly what you're going to get. So I think that I'm thankful for breakers because they release so many cards to people who don't want those cards, who then go to sell those cards, and people like me can buy those cards.
It's a funny way to look at it. It's
Right, because people who participate in breaks they need to participate in the next break, and to do that, they sometimes need to raise money, so they have to get it from the cards that they got in the first break.
It's funny. I mean, I told this story earlier. Like when I worked at the card store, so it's 20 years ago now, but it's basically the parallel of what you're saying. People would come in, they'd buy a box of cards, they'd open the whole thing, they'd trade every card they got back to the store for another pack. They'd open that pack and get nothing, and then they'd leave. And as someone who worked at the store, you're like, this person just came in and gave me $100 and $50 worth of cards. I mean, it's like the easiest. There's just like a pure, the winner is the store.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Especially when you buy back those cards for a fraction of the price as the store owner, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go on. Thank you, Nate, and appreciate you watching the channel. Al, I just want to bring this comment. Really nice comment from Al. Says, following both of you since the beginning of the year and very much enjoy the shows. Al, great to have you as a viewer.
Yeah.
Same for you, Chris, I'm sure.
Of course. Yeah.
I like this. In that order, says Ron, and Troy says, I would definitely buy the shirt in that order.
Okay.
We should partner on it, Chris. We should partner on it. Too funny. Okay, I'm going to scroll down through the rest of the comments here, guys, and we'll wrap up. We're 10 minutes over. I like to try to keep it to 2 hours. It's tough to get people to click on these videos in syndication when they go really over about 20 minutes, never mind over 2 hours, but we'll see. Jordan Riker says, hello. I feel like I've seen you already, Jordan. Teapot again. Brody says, I'm only 13. Brody's not even 15 years old.
You missed
He's 13 years old.
Wow.
And I just wanted to say about Brody, Brody became kind of a well-known entity in the hobby after he went to the Topps booth at a national, probably when he was like 8 years old, and said, what do I have to do to get a job at Topps? And Topps said, okay, well, here's what you do. And Brody took it to heart and acted on it. A very industrious young man. He's got a channel.
Next generation ambassador of the hobby.
He's an ambassador. He's got a show called The Hobby Life. He was actually the kid ambassador at the National. So the National partnered with him and called him the kid ambassador. So it's a great thing. And he's only 13 years old. I had dinner with him at the National, and cool. Just a fine young man. And anyway, looking forward to having you on the show next week, Brody. So everyone who's watching, please come meet the young man, Brody, a true representation of the future of the hobby.
Very
Teapot
cool.
says Brody is great right there. Teapot says it is him. Good to know, Teapot. Great to see you. Jeremy Allen says, what services or products are missing from the hobby? Anyone looking to share a business idea? That's a great question.
The pop report, a universal pop report. Big one.
Universal.
Yeah.
Gem rate. Let's talk about gem rate for a second. Gem rate really, and I met the individual behind Gem rate at the National.
Yeah.
Gem rate is a website that really tracks the rate at which cards are graded by PSA and BGS and Beckett Grading Services. And I did want to talk about Gem rate. You recently put out a video that used some of their data, but let's just talk about Gem rate in general for a moment, Chris. How valuable is that website and that service, and to what extent are you finding yourself using it?
So I just discovered it a few days before I put out that video, which was just a week ago now or so. That is awesome data. That is really awesome data. I imagine they can expand on it. There's not. I didn't play around with the website that much. I feel like the website's in its infancy stages. So the data that there is already really great, but I feel like there's more that they can add. And I'm sure they will. That'll be even more great. Great data for the hobby. Yeah. Great
data. What I find really interesting is to see the rate at which a specific card gets submitted and how, like how many PSA 10 Mike Trout Topps updates were there a year ago and how many are there now, and 2 years ago and 3 years ago and 4 years ago, and what kind of a hockey stick curve are we seeing? Obviously, most cards are experiencing that hockey stick curve just based on, we all know how backed up the grading companies are and have been for quite some time now. So, but it's a great site. Check it out if you haven't, guys. So we called out for some predictions. Jordan Riker predicted the Mavs will win the 2022 NBA Finals. Not necessarily a hobby prediction, but it does impact the hobby. That is for sure. Thank you.
Oh, wait, you know what? Let me go back to a question because I thought of something else. So what service is missing in the hobby? So the Universal Pop Report, but I think it's either in Magic or in Pokemon. There's an app where you just scan the card, and then it instantly tells you all the data of the card, including like that needs to exist. Well, like you just use your camera on your phone and you press click and it takes it and says, oh, this is a 1945 Gaudi or whatever. Is it, Well, and I can tell you it tells you recent sales. It tells you it's incredible.
That app is out there.
It is. What is it?
It's called Center Stage.
Center Stage.
Center Stage.
How is this not? How do I not know this?
I just found out about it like last week. They reached out, and I downloaded it on my phone. It's this one above my finger right there, Center Stage, right there. And
have you tried it? How does it work? All right.
I have there. It's in its infancy. It's going to get better over time and get more data, but it's not 100% yet, but I believe they're in beta sort of thing. So give it time. It's coming. It works to a degree, I would say. I haven't tried it a ton, but I've put a couple cards up against it, but it's exactly what you said. You basically just aim it at the card, and it knows what the card is.
No, in the I think it's Magic, but in the Magic one, it's just amazing. You just click and it says, oh, it instantly tells you what it is. It tells you the range of sales, and it's like, for someone who doesn't know anything about Magic, and I happen to just have a box of Magic cards from a collection I bought, what do I do with these? Do I throw them away? Do I sell them? Are they worth anything? We'll just go click, 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 and see which ones are worth something.
Yeah, some just give away to kids. Some might just go in the fire, and the rest you can keep and do something with, right?
Right.
Yeah. Gizmo said, I think graded cards will jump drastically in the next year. Given the prices of grading, they will have to come at an ultra premium to raw cards, no matter what the card is. I was thinking that same thing earlier, that just because grading is more expensive, that cards already in slabs should be more expensive. I don't know that that's necessarily happening, but it kind of seems logical, although the market isn't always logical, as Warren Buffett calls it. Mr. Market wakes up in a different mood every day. You just never really know. You and I are that's exactly what I would have answered. Like I would have sort of guessed we would have already started seeing that, but we sort of haven't. So I don't know why. Like for example, like a 1960 Topps Common in a PSA 7. That's like a $10 card.
those really haven't gone up, but it seems like they should have given that grade. You can't grade that card anymore. It's not feasible.
No, not right now. Not right now. That's for
Yeah.
sure. Or at least not with PSA or BGS.
Right.
Rock Latex says this show had the parents meeting the in-laws type feel. Two worlds colliding, the two channels I follow the most, having a conversation.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, very cool, Rock Latex. Thank you for being a loyal viewer. Really appreciate that. Joe, my buddy Joe from Santa Cruz, says thanks for the great show, guys. Always learning and really appreciate the old school perspectives. Return to vintage, continued, and scarce 90s inserts. Yes.
There you go.
We love them. Thank you, Troy. Appreciate that. Says great show. Thanks to both of us, Chris. What is this? What do you think of the lame duck session of sports cards? I don't know what that means, what that's referring to. Do you?
No, I'm not sure what that's referring to.
Okay. Sorry, ASMR. Not exactly sure what you're getting at there. Jeremy Allen says ComC needs a refreshing to user experience and user interface. Yeah, it's been pretty much the same for quite some time. And I think a lot of people would argue that that there's other things for them to focus resources on at this time, but you got to think something is coming soon enough. Tim is not somebody to rest on his laurels and is always he's a continual improvement sort of person. Tim Getch being the CEO of, or the president of, and the founder of ComC.
Yeah. I assume they'll have an app at some point. There's no app yet.
No app yet, but I've asked him a few times. He's been on the show a couple of times, and I've asked him about an app. Yeah, and it's one of those things that's on. It just where does it fall in priorities? So
yeah.
Andrew Mark says ComC is working on a new user interface, so that's something. Andrew also says the market will drag on for another 6 months due to PSA backlog. Hopefully, more sellers than buyers. eBay market share will keep dropping. 1099 tax reporting change will increase trade show sales. Yeah, because there's just more cash, and cash is easier to hide than there's no real paper trail on cash. So
yeah,
definitely. Dave Kaplan says that Josh Luber mentioned the decline of eBay in his treatise, his white paper, his message to the hobby that came out a few weeks ago. Terry, so that card went for $45K plus. It was more than that. It was like 54 with buyer's premium, Terry, on that Gretzky card that sold at that very obscure auction house. And I say obscure just because I had never heard of it, and I still can't name it. I'm sorry to them that I can't, but I wish I could share the name of that auction company and give them a shout out. Just trying to get to the bottom of the comments here before we sign off. Joe Perot says, I want to thank Chris for helping me acquire some of my all-time favorite cards from the famously awesome Sewall auctions on eBay back in the day. All class and a truly advanced hobby mind. I had asked Chris, I want to just mention this to everybody watching. I had asked Chris the other day, what can I put on the ticker for him? So I did put on, here it is, Chris on YouTube, as you all know by now, baseball card collector, investor, dealer. And from there, you can find his eBay store and any other sort of Chris resource that you want. Is that right?
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff there. My eBay store, my COMC page. Yeah. But I used to have a huge eBay store. It's not very big at the moment because I'm shipping from here. But cool to hear from Joe that he bought a bunch of stuff from me back in the day.
Yeah, he mentioned it to me the other day. Very cool. Very cool. Jem Min says the day eBay peddles its last card transaction will be a great day. I don't see it happening anytime soon. But funny comment. Jeremy M, thank you and you're welcome. Terry Fortune says, when are we getting the Expo recap? Any great sales or pickup? It's going to come. I promise it's going to come, Terry. I just don't know when yet, but it'll be too late.
Give us a tease, man. Give us a tease. What'd you get?
Oh, man. I mean, I literally have a stack of cards sitting right here beside me. Maybe I can show a couple. I'll show you guys a couple of quick cards here. How's that? Just a couple, because I don't want to spend too much time. I know people do like to see cards. I picked up here's the Stanley Cup hologram I was talking about earlier. I picked this one up PSA 6. This is numbered out of 5,000 on the bottom. This was pulled from a box of Pro Set. I picked up a short print sign of the times Alexander Ovechkin autograph.
Nice.
Here's this is from Chronology, a Sidney Crosby autograph. This card is numbered on the back to 5 with a really nice, bold, on-card gold autograph.
That's a pack inserted auto?
It is.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
nice.
It is. Beautiful Wayne Gretzky autograph on card from SP Authentic 2018. This card is numbered out of 6. This card is numbered out of 6. So a truly rare Gretzky autograph. Always nice when he's in an Oilers uniform.
So you got Gretzky, Crosby, Ovechkin. You're really going with the big boys here.
Going with the big boys. I'm a hockey guy. I collect other stuff, but I was on the hockey rampage there. Here's a beautiful Gretzky autograph from Chronology. This is numbered out of 9 with a diamond. It's a diamond relic.
Are these PC cards or these
these cards are not PC cards. These are not PC. The Stanley Cup hologram, I have a couple of them. I love this card. It's one of my all-time favorite cards. It's tough to let it go, but these are like trade bait sort of cards. I'll get to some PC cards here. A really nice Patrick Waugh Dominion Peerless Patch 3-color autograph. Nice Connor McDavid on-card autograph with a 3-color patch. This card is numbered out of 6.
Nice.
Pretty cool card. Some Connor McDavid rookie cards. This is the kind of the base, numbered out of 499. It's the Skybox Premium, and there's his rubies. This is numbered out of 50. I think this card, this is kind of on the PC side. I absolutely love this card. Only 50 of them. I own 3 of them, full disclosure. 2 of them are graded, and now I added a raw to my stash.
You got 5% of the market there.
6%
of the market.
Couple of Austin Matthews rookies. These are numbered out of 99.
Nice.
And I like these because this one is numbered 1 of 99, and this one is numbered 87 of 99. 87 is Sidney Crosby's jersey number. Cool. It doesn't really mean much on an Austin Matthews card, but it's kind of fun. I enjoy that. Picked up a Teemu Solani Jambalaya from 2008. I love this design. Love the colors of that. Here's a Mario Lemieux PMG Red. This is numbered out of 100 from 2014.
I mentioned that in one of my videos. The PMGs in hockey don't have the same sort of value as in the other sports, no?
Well, so the PMGs in basketball came out in 1997. We didn't have our first PMGs in hockey until 2012 Flair Retro. But the difference in 2012 Flair Retro hockey versus 2012 Flair Retro baseball and football and basketball and football is that in hockey they were licensed. So you get a card like this, this is PC. So this is the Wayne Gretzky PMG Red from 2012 Flair Retro. So this is his first precious metals gem. This is the red version, so it's the least common. This is numbered out of 100. It's a PSA 7, and I bought this from my friend Karn Rye from the Big 3 Hockey, and this completed the rainbow for me. I also have the green and the blue. They're all 3 PSA 7s now. So really, really cool. Really happy to add this. Probably my favorite pickup of the show.
What I was getting, at, if that was like LeBron, who would be the Gretzky equivalent, or wouldn't that be like, it would be like 10 times the value, or no?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Probably.
Which doesn't quite make sense to me, because that doesn't. I remember when I saw that in one of my videos that I just randomly researched, that struck me as weird. It seemed like the PMG hockey should be worth more.
Well, I think, if you were to see the PMG green Sidney Crosby, we saw 2 sell earlier this year, and they both did around $20,000. So that's pretty good, I think, for that card. It's obviously, hockey just isn't basketball. You look at some of the work you've done, you'll see that basketball outnumbers hockey, 20-1 probably, if not more. So there's that. But I think if you were to see PMG green Wayne Gretzky come up at auction now, it would, and again, full disclosure, I do own one, so take this with a grain of salt if you want, but I could see it selling for lots of money. And it's always awkward to say a number, considering I have a card and you don't want to be seen as trying to, pump up your own card. So I'm not going to put a number to it, but I think it's a substantial amount what that would sell for now.
Gotcha.
I'll show a few more. Picked up some Leaf cards, Leaf Pearl. Picked up this card here. This is a really historical piece. It's got 8 pieces of game-used memorabilia from the pioneers of hockey, including George Vezina, Howie Morenz.
Going way back.
Cyclone Taylor. These are the pioneers of the sport from the
Yeah,
1910s and 20s. So this is a really cool card. It's numbered out of 2. I bought it from the guys at Player's Choice, a card shop out of Kelowna, and just really fell in love with the card from Leaf Pearl. Also picked up this from Leaf Pearl, Dominic Hasek. This is just a beautiful patch card.
Look at that patch. Look at that
couldn't
patch.
take my eyes off this card. I had to buy this card, numbered out of 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Numbered out of 5. A beautiful card that'll have some parallels with different colored foil. Okay, just this many more I'll show. An Alexander Ovechkin Cup patch parallel out of 8. I collect these particular cards, so I bought that. Here's a Connor McDavid exquisite. Yeah, flashback to the LeBron rookie year, gold out of 10. I was really happy to add that. Picked up a Jonathan Taves Cup RPA tribute card. So that's
patch, man. 5 colors on that thing.
Yeah, there's 4. A little bit of blue even up in the corner there. This could. So these are not available, these cards, by the way. No. So please you can PM me if you want, but I'm not going to let them go. Sidney Crosby exquisite auto patch out of 10 with just a beautiful autograph.
Yeah, look at this stuff. Yeah, this is great stuff.
He does a great job squeezing his autograph into a little spot and just keeping all of it there, very bold. Connor McDavid, beautiful artifacts, artistic or admirable impressions card, numbered out of 24, on card auto. Yeah, acetate. It's really cool because the acetate covers the whole card, including the patch window. So it's kind of neat.
Oh, nice.
And then a Mario Lemieux. This is from the second year of the Cup.
I was going to say, where's Super Mario? We're missing.
Here
That's like the one we're missing.
Here he is. Love Mario Lemieux. This is his second year of the Cup signature patch. This card is numbered out of 25, so it's a short print. Most cards in the set are numbered out of 75. A nice 3-color patch. Thank you to Grant Patterson for selling me this card at the expo. This card here, I love this card. Steve Yzerman, another player you might know about, right?
I've heard of him.
So this is the base.
He was pretty good.
Base patch auto parallel. This card's numbered out of 8, and when he got to Detroit in 1984, they were bottom of the barrel team. Yeah. And, it took him about 5 or 6 years. He won the Stanley Cup, and, now he's an all-time legend. He's an all-time legend.
Of course. He's got that famous goal. Yeah.
I'm not sure which one you're talking about, but
I'm thinking of something else.
Okay. And then I'll finish off with this card here from my friend Carlos Diego. This is a dual scripted sticks card from the Cup of my 2 favorite players of all time, Dale Hawerchuk on top, and my all-time favorite athlete on the bottom, Teemu Selanne, played for the Winnipeg
He's your all-time
Jets.
number 1?
He's my all-time favorite athlete of any sport.
Cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Teemu Selanne. Yeah. And this card is numbered out of 5, so very, very tough card to find. And again, it comes back to relationships. Carlos bought the card in a high-end collection, I believe, at the show, and he brought it right to me and said, I have a card you're going to want. And I looked at it and I said, you're right. I want that card. And he was fair with me. And I was.
You know me so well.
Yeah. People know that I collect those players, and people, at least, that know me. So pick those up. This is another Leaf card I grabbed, 1,000 assists commemorating, but this has Wayne Gretzky, Gordie Howe, Mario Lemieux, Steve Yzerman, Joe Sakic, Joe Thornton, Steve Yzerman, top middle. Just a great card. This is numbered 5.
Are those the 7 guys with 1,000 assists?
It's 7. No, it's 7 of the guys with 1,000 assists, but it's 7 of the. Maybe they have the most. I'd have to look that up, but yeah, just a really Leaf does a great job making they do. Some of their cards are just
some creative stuff,
just stunning. And here's another old school mem card of real pioneers of the game. This is a 1-of-1 from their In the Game used product. This is actually from 2016, and this card does feature Cyclone Taylor, Jack Adams, who the Adams division was named after, among a few others. So just a great
way back.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love that. I love the historical stuff.
Yeah. So there you go. There's a bit of a few of the cards I picked up.
That was a quality tease. I'll give you a quality tease.
Well, and there you go, Terry Fortune. Now I don't know if I need to do an episode just covering my show, but I'm sure I'll talk about it some more. So okay, man, we're at 2.5 hours. We got to wrap this up. I'm gonna just okay. So Thank you, everybody. Raw Dog, thank you, says two of the best dudes in the hobby right here, just joining. All love, big fan. Thank you so much, Raw Dog. Appreciate that. Gareth Miller says, hey, Chris.
Gareth, yes.
There you go. What is up? He says, what is up?
Yeah.
Joe Perot, yeah, just a couple pickups from the Expo, Terry. Thanks for asking. Troy says, who's this Iserman guy? There's another Iserman I grabbed, another tribute card. I don't know why it wasn't in that stack. But thanks, Terry. Appreciate that. Nick M says, glad the Mario. Oh, yeah. Nick traded me that the Solani Jambalaya and the Mario PMG.
Okay,
yes,
cool.
There you go. Thank you, Nick, for that trade. Yes, they are going into my PC. Thank you, Troy. All right, we're going to end this. Guys, if you want to find Chris, if you don't know where to find him yet, YouTube, just type in baseball card collector, investor, dealer. You will find him. Links to his eBay store, links to his ComC store. Watch his videos. Among the best, if not the best, on YouTube. I'm a big fan. Chris, I want to thank you again for, what is it, 6 a.m. where you are now? Something like that?
6:30, yeah.
6:30. He woke up. He set his alarm to get up at about 4 o'clock a.m., his time to do this. He's in the Netherlands, so
totally worth it.
Definitely grateful to have you on, Chris. Thank you for the video you put on your channel, letting people know that you would be here tonight. Yeah. And anyone who's new that found me and Sports Cards Live because of Chris, grateful to have you. Grateful to Chris to, kind of send you this way. I'd be extremely thankful if you subscribe to the channel and kept on checking them out. I do interviews every Saturday night, and tune in for the ones that you find interesting. A big backlog of interviews in the archives on the YouTube channel. Check out any if you want. Watch them at 1.5 though, because they're long. I admit these shows go long, but try to get some great quality content out there for all of you guys. So check it out. Chris, thank you, man. Just this has been great. We'll have to do a part 2 at some point.
Yeah. This was really fun. Thank you so much for having me on. Thank you all the viewers for watching and commenting, and yeah, really appreciate it.
Awesome. Troy says best ever. That's high praise. So thank you very much, Troy. Everyone for tuning in. I will be on the Collectible YouTube channel tomorrow night for Collectible Live. I do that for them. So check that out. If you are able to, my guest will be Gary Balicki. His IG handle is Pristine MJ Sports. So check that out. We're going to have a good chat about the hobby tomorrow night on the YouTube channel is called Collectible App. I'll put that on the ticker right now. Please join us tomorrow then. And hey, subscribe to that channel as well. And again, the Mint Collective, which is being promoted and organized by Collectible and IMG. Dana White will be speaking at that event. Check that out. It's at the end of January in Las Vegas. Chris is going to try and be there. I'm definitely going to be there. So hope to see you all then. If we don't see you tomorrow night, everybody, have a great week ahead. Brody the Kid will be joining us next Saturday on the show. Be sure to tune in. Good night. Thank you all. What a great chat we had tonight. Sorry if we didn't get to any of your comments. That's it. The show's over. Chris, hang tight.